Good morning and welcome to QSR Next. I'm Shara Kanzler, your host and publisher of Fast Casual, and I'm thrilled to be back for our fifth annual virtual talk show to discuss everything from boosting franchise profitability and marketing trends to co-branding and AI. Speaking of AI, let's get ready to talk about using AI in the QSR kitchen. Joining me today is a tech expert who has been at the forefront of this digital transformation while leading operations at several QSR brands, and he's now with PAR Technology. Marcus Wasden, thank you for being here.
Shara, thank you so much for having me. Could not be more excited to be here representing PAR. As you mentioned, I've spent some time as a CIO at a couple different hospitality places, and now this is my kind of actually second stint at PAR,
Can
running a
you get
business
can
unit.
you
And
get
so,
a, can you drop some names? Who have you worked with in the past?
of course, of course. I started my I got bit by the restaurant bug back in at Church's Chicken. So I was the chief information officer for Church's Chicken for about 5.5 years. That's where I really kind of fell in love with and learned the restaurant space, and more specifically, started that journey helping them figure out how to manage food and labor in the back of the house. So like literally getting out and figuring out counts and inventory and all that kind of fun stuff, and then doing the same thing for labor. And so, and then again, the second CIO stint I had was with the Atlanta Hawks and State Farm Arena. So in the NBA. So we did it's my hometown team. I'm an Atlanta guy. And what was really fun about that was it was an arena transformation where we spent $220 million renovating that arena, and 25 million of that was on all the tech, all the fun stuff, right? So still tangential to hospitality, clearly, right? Like sports and entertainment. We had retail, we had, food service, and all that kind of fun stuff. And now what I'm trying to do is apply what I liked interacting with from a customer perspective to the solution providers. And so I want to be the solution provider that I wanted as a solution provider when I was a customer. So that's what we're working on here at PAR.
Well, that is awesome, and I know that you guys are really dialed into AI, which I can is very overwhelming to a lot of our readers and listeners. We hear that buzzword all the time, but some people think it's still technology for the distant future, but it's here. So, can you talk about how your work at PAR is focused on making that into reality? Like, how are you guys helping these QSR brands move beyond the hype and actually getting these deployments out?
Of course. I think you're exactly right. It's funny. You've been like at the trade shows and the conferences and things like this. You've been hearing about AI for a really long time, but it's AI for AI's sake for a really long time, right? And so now what I've noticed in the last, call it 6 to 8 months, there's been a definite shift in the interactions I've had where people are like, okay, I know, I understand your AI, you have AI in your name, you're a new startup with AI, like all these different companies. We're like, what does it do for me? Right. And so the shift is really, how does it add value? What are you doing to add value? Either making my business much more efficient so I can compete in these times of stresses on food costs and labor costs and value wars and all that kind of fun stuff. What are you doing to bring more customers into my restaurant? What are you doing to help me serve them better? What are you doing to help me cut costs? How is AI actually helping with that? And so that's why I'm so excited to be back at PAR, because we are really looking at how do we leverage AI to add specific value to customers. And in my area of expertise, kind of in the back of house, which is the business unit that I run today, there's several different ways, whether that's making our forecasts a lot more efficient. And so we can dial that in. And if you make your forecast more efficient, then you do a better job of managing your food and managing your labor, right? Those all translate and trickle down. Or access to data, like restaurants. I think you'll mention, yeah, and we talked about before, restaurants are drowning in data. And how do you get access to the right data that you need at the right time to make the right decisions? And that's another big piece I think is really, really exciting that we're focused on at PAR. So one of the tools that we have that happens to be in my portfolio here at PAR is something that's called Coach AI. And we can talk about it more a little bit later. But what I really love about this tool is, for the first time, operators who are the people on the ground trying to run restaurants and serve their guests, we all know that they're faced with multiple questions and multiple challenges every day. And so they'll see, almost every 5 or 10 minutes, they have some decision they have to make where it would be great if they had the data. But while the data's there, it's not necessarily accessible in the easiest way, right? They may have to sit down and, turn some knobs and flip some switches and do a couple reports and things like that. And that's all great. But most of the time, these operators don't have time to do that. And so what Coach AI is allowing them to do is all these questions that they have in natural language, they can ask a question and then they can get the response back to have a database decision moving forward, as opposed to, kind of going by gut or having to sit down and take 5, 10, 15 minutes out of the day. So that's one of the products that we have under our portfolio that I'm super excited about, and we're seeing a lot of great traction with so far.
Are you seeing operators use that for inventory management, for example?
What we're seeing operators use that for is all kinds of different things. So, for example, one of the questions that you would be able to ask this type of system, let's say I put myself back in the church's chicken days, right? Where at a typical church's chicken, you would get 2 deliveries a week. Okay. And so you could sit down and say, okay, between deliveries, my sales have been a little higher than I expected them to be, which is awesome news. And, do I have enough chicken to last me until my next delivery? Well, in order to get to that information, it's readily accessible in any back office solution, but you kind of have to sit down and you may have to run a couple different reports. You might have to look at what your forecasts are. You might have to look at what your inventory on hand is and all those types of things. So it takes a couple minutes to do that. And we all know that, anytime a manager on duty has to take time off of the floor to do those types of things, it's less time they have serving guests, right? And so instead of doing that, you could sit there and literally ask the system, do I have enough chicken to last my next, delivery? And it knows when your next delivery is, it knows what your sales projections are, it knows what your inventory on hand is, and can come back with a, yeah, there's a high probability that you do, or there's a high probability that you don't. And so
Based
from an
on the
inventory,
based on the sales from like the day before or the hours before or what?
it's so in that particular example, if I got a delivery on Tuesday and my next delivery isn't until Friday, and all of a sudden sales on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were higher than I expected, hey, do I have enough chicken to last me through, Friday until my next delivery, or do I need to try to get some from another store? So it's using sales data, it's using forecasted like upcoming sales data, it's using what the inventory is on hand, all that fun stuff to give you a very simple answer to a very operational question.
Awesome. So, I mean, that sounds great, but is it complicated to get to onboard this? Does it just take a short amount of time? And is there a training, component that GMs need to learn?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it is a pretty quick ramp up. So if you already have a back office in place, right, and you're already actively using a back office, layering on Coach AI is pretty simple to do. So it's pretty speedy. Back to the training component, what I would say is I think most of us have had some experience using ChatGPT or Claude or one of the commercially available, AI engines that's out there. And what you'll notice is, you know, the data that you get back or the responses you get back from those systems it are kind of correlated to how well you structure the prompt that you ask it, right? So one of the things that we'll need to do, and it will be incumbent upon us, is to give people, hey, here are examples of prompts in different parts of the operational aspect that will return you the type of data that you're probably looking for. So I don't know that it's necessarily a training exercise you have to do. It's really more of a job aid type of thing that we could put right on screen that says, oh, you're looking for inventory data, or you're looking for sales data, or you're looking for labor data, right? Here's several prompts on how to structure them in order to get the data back that you need. So I think it's a pretty quick ramp up from a training perspective. It's just literally getting a little more efficient and adept at creating those prompts, because it is an AI engine, and therefore, if you ask it something that is not in line with what you're looking for, it's going to return, it's going to return exactly what you asked it. So a little bit of ramp up, but I think we've all had that experience with like ChatGPT and the other things too.
Sure, sure, sure. All right. Well, we focused a lot on the back of the house. So, but real quick, I know AI is huge in customer experience too. So, how is it improving things like, personalized recommendations and targeted marketing?
Gosh, I think there's a lot of different things that it's doing in that regard. One of the things that I really love, and I actually had this phrase. I first heard it when I was at the Atlanta Hawks. Then you talk about an audience of one or a guest set of one, and what I mean by that is, lots of restaurants serve lots of different guests. right? And so, in the past, you were able to kind of somewhat target those guests into specific groups of people. So these groups of people behave in this certain way. So let me offer them this type of offer, right? Like, and so that's still, you're getting better and a little more targeted, but you're still not all the way down to an individual or a guest of one or an audience of one. And so what I think is coming with AI, and it's already, kind of there and it'll only get better, is individual recommendations based on your individual patterns, right? So there's no real way a human can keep up with that, right? If you try to do that manually as one of these big brands, you can't really do that. It's not effective. You can put some rule sets in place that say, groups of people act like this, please do that. But I think what AI is going to bring at the highest level is really being able to tailor into, what Shara wants, and what Shara's family wants and how often she goes. And so it's also doing it in such a way that you can actually use the brand's voice, right? Like, so it's pretty cool where you can teach it, instead of just giving you a generic answer or giving you a generic prompt or, whether it's guest recovery or, something happened or something went sideways and you need to kind of get them back or give them an offer. It can do it if your brand is a playful voice, it can do it in a playful voice. If your brand is a more serious tone, it can do it in a serious tone. And so that's type of stuff that's coming and it was here and it's going to get better. Like I was mentioning before, that really tailors and dials it in to individual customers, to that kind of audience of one, all the way down to Shara, as opposed to people that kind of behave like Shara.
That's awesome. All right. Well, to conclude our discussion, let's get real. So there's tons and tons of AI out there. I feel like our operators reading are just torn in different directions. People are throwing things at them, promising them things. So, what advice do you have to operators who are considering some of these new AI offerings? How do they measure their ROI, and what kind of questions should they be asking?
Gotcha. I think first and foremost, I would recommend that you evaluate the options that are out there that are off the shelf, right? Like, so I know there's a lot of organizations that are and are contemplating and have delved in themselves to their own AI offerings, right? And so while I think certain organizations probably have the capability to do that, most restaurant brands and hospitality brands are architected and built to service their guests and to run the business of hospitality, not necessarily run a software business, right? And so that's the first thing. I was like, before you consider going down this path on your own, make sure that you really understand what you're getting yourself into. So that's kind of thing number one I would ask. So I would recommend somebody leave that to someone that wakes up in the morning thinking about AI type of stuff and goes to sleep at night thinking about AI type of stuff, as opposed to it being added in to another thing that they do from serving their guests. So that would be thing number one. Thing number two is get started. It's very easy to get started these days, right? There's a whole bunch of solutions out there for a relatively, low cost that you can actually dip your toe in and get moving. Lots of people are going to be on this bandwagon, and the learning curve when you get in there and you start understanding what's happening, it just unlocks this whole world of things where you become much more, much smarter, so that when you do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, you're going to get better and better and better. So get started is what I would say. You asked about measuring ROI. I would say on that one, also pick a very specific challenge that you're having inside of your restaurant. Let's say you're a QSR brand and you're locked into, kind of sustained value wars. We see all the value ads that are out on TV today. You can only offer those types of values if you are very efficient in your operations, because your food cost and your labor cost, if you're in a similar area, is going to be roughly the same as your competitor. So how are they able to offer lower cost than you are and still maintain a profit margin? And it's typically based on the efficiency of their operations, right? So pick a challenge that is something that's meaningful to you. So whether that's reducing costs, increasing efficiency, driving guest traffic, whatever, pick that. And then when you start making the investment in AI, and you have the pre, it's a test, right? Like, so before we started using AI, we've started using AI, use it for a period of months, maybe call it 3 or 6 months, and take a look at, hey, did the incremental improvement in traffic or sales or the reduction in cost or the increase in efficiency, did that outweigh what I'm actually investing in this AI product? And if it does, you're probably in pretty good shape. If it doesn't, you probably need to kind of go back to the drawing board, much smarter this time, and approach it again. But I think it's an iterative process. Get going quickly, start kind of at a smaller scale, learn, figure it out. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, take that learning and start again. So just get moving.
So, can you, before I let you go, do you have any examples that you could give, or what you're seeing from your clients on how long it's taking to get that ROI back? Or
It's yeah, and so I think it varies on what you're talking about, right? Like, so for example, one of the ones that I've seen out there, like I mentioned Coach AI a second ago. One of the things that we're watching clients do is, the example I mentioned is a pretty straightforward operational example. It's like, do I have enough chicken to last me till the next delivery? But you can also ask it things like, if I'm an above restaurant leader, right, and I have, let's call it 7 to 10 restaurants that I'm responsible for, I can ask Coach AI things like, hey, can you do an analysis and let me know how we're doing with our current operating hours? Please evaluate sales at the end of the day and let me know if you recommend that I close restaurants a little bit earlier or extend their operating hours based on what the sales are for the last couple of hours, right? And it'll come back with a recommendation for that, which is if you think about that type of question, that's a relatively complex question. And when it comes back to saying, hey, you extend these hours, you close this restaurant a little bit earlier because the cost of keeping it open, your sales isn't, justifying that, and you start making those tunes and tweaks, you can get ROI back pretty quickly, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about, a number of months as opposed to a number of years on this. So that's the really neat type of stuff that's out there, and I'm
yeah,
super excited about.
I'm sure GMs are really liking the confidence it gives them too, because it's kind of an iffy thing that should I close, should I stay open? But if you have that data, you have this, technology telling you to do this, it's probably a lot easier to make that.
It is, and what I would say is, it's still a very well informed recommendation, right? So, like, don't necessarily take everything that something like that would say as gospel. Try it, right? Like, it makes the recommendation. You try it, and you're like, hey, you know what? My overall restaurant profitability is better over the last couple of periods, that financial periods that we measure it, because I'm not burning the labor with nobody coming in, or my sales are up because I've extended an hour and we had a lot of traffic that comes in late night. And that's, as we all know, very location dependent, right? Like, some restaurants are lunch restaurants, some are dinner restaurants, some are late night restaurants. You just don't really know. Getting these types of data based recommendations to make those decisions, I think is so exciting because the data's always been there. It's just not been accessible, I would say. We're unlocking that data because some of the folks that are out in the field, they're very operational in nature. They move very fast, make decisions very fast, and so they're not usually going to sit down behind a keyboard, with rare exception, and do the reporting and the dashboards they need to do when they can just ask it a question and get that kind of stuff back. So that's what I'm excited about, is all of a sudden this data is available in natural language with ad hoc questions. Yeah, I have these problems today, give me the data to support these problems and let me make the decision and let me go, which is right in line with how operators act today. And I think that's super exciting.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an incredible look at how AI is transforming the QSR industry. And Marcus, we are so grateful that you're here to share your expertise with us.
Well, Sherrod, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing all those folks out there as we're fighting the good fight, because I love the restaurant space.
Exactly. All right, and that's our opening keynote. Thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned for our next interview with Wiener Schnitzel.
Restaurant technology should be all about outcomes. Your goals being met, your guests returning, your growth taking off. But with fragmented and inflexible solutions, technology can feel like it's more about chasing problems than creating value. Until now. PAR replaces fragmentation and inflexibility with a unified system that is laser-focused on achieving the outcomes that matter most to you. From the software that powers your operations, to the engagement solutions that keep your guests smiling, to the data you need to unleash the aha moments that change everything. All wrapped up in a partnership that makes it easier to be an operator and a brand leader in today's fast-paced reality. PAR, where performance comes together.
Welcome back to QSR Next, the show where we get the inside scoop on the trends shaping the fast food industry. I'm your host, Shara Kanzler, and you remember my co-host, Marcus of PAR. How's it going, Marcus?
I'm doing great, Shara. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. Well, our next guest is Shaq Turner, Director of Franchise Expansion for the iconic hot dog chain Wiener Schnitzel. Shaq is here to talk about the brand's bold new strategy, conquering non-traditional spaces. Shaq, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's dive right in. You guys have been a classic for decades, but now you're making a move into some unique high traffic locations like Walmart, airports, military bases. That's a lot different from what we're used to. So what's the thinking beyond this shift?
Well, as the dynamics of everything changes with the consumer and the customers out there, we want to be able to service our guests and expand that footprint to where our guests are on the airports, military bases, and with Walmart. So we're really excited about the Walmart expansion. We've partnered with them, and we'll be going into 6 locations in 6 different states, with our first location opening here at the beginning of next month in Tempe, Arizona.
That's amazing, Shaq. Talk to us a little bit about, what are some of the differences that happen when you go to a non-traditional location like that?
Well, some of the differences we have to look for is most all of our brick and mortar locations have drive-throughs. So there's a percentage of the sales that come through the drive-through, and that sales volume is directly impacted by the drive-through sales. So going into that, saying, okay, what are going to be the costs of building this out, and how much sales volume are we going to forecast or predict for these locations, given the fact that we don't have that drive-through as part of the equation. With the Walmart specifically, we looked at very high volume Walmarts that have a lot of foot traffic coming in. So we specifically went with locations that are meeting a minimum threshold of visits per month. To make sure that we're getting that foot traffic coming through that front door, so that we increase those visits into Wiener Schnitzel prior to their visits to Walmart or a post visit to Walmart. Same with the military bases and airports. There's different size military bases across the country, as well as the airports, and looking at the airports and the military bases that have the volumes that make sense to support our franchise growth in the operations, in the build out in some of these different formats.
Is it less expensive or more expensive to go with these non-traditional build outs?
So in the Walmart case, we really looked at making this less expensive, because we were going to not have the sales volumes that we would with a traditional street side location with the drive-throughs. So really looked at the space, the build out, making that less expensive than it would be. So it'd be so the profit margins are there when they're building out. When you look at the airport world, the construction costs that go into the airport space, there's a lot of additional costs that go into those types of venues. So that is definitely a more expensive build out than your traditional street side for the most part. But military bases, looking at college campuses, those other spaces, we're really looking to bring that investment level down to help give our franchise partners, that opportunity to diversify their investments within the brand.
Gotcha. Shaq, do you, in those non-traditional locations like the Walmarts and the airports and everything else, do you have different kind of target sales numbers or different target profitability numbers than your traditional locations, or do you try to keep all of that pretty constant?
Um, they're different.
Okay.
Just based, it's really built off of how much is it going to cost to open the location, forecasting the sales volumes that we feel like we're going to get based off the volumes. Going into the airports, we definitely want to have higher volumes because of the costs that are going in there. We may be going into a smaller space, but it could cost just as much as a brick and mortar street side. So we're definitely looking for those high sales volumes. But going into the other non-traditional spaces, we're really looking, we love to have the sales volumes that we have on the brick and mortar side or the street side, but we also know that sometimes that's not going to be the case, just purely based off the audience that we have. When you look at the non-traditional spaces, you have a captive audience, right? So there's a certain number of people that you have to be able to drive into your restaurants on a daily basis. And so that also can play a factor into the sales volume and when we're forecasting those out.
So you mentioned that you're trying to keep the costs down for, potential franchisees. Can you give some examples on ways that you can do that? Are you using like, local builders, or are you cutting some technology that you don't necessarily need?
Well, the technology piece is actually we're probably implementing more technology than cutting any technology by adding kiosks, so it could reduce the labor inside those spaces, so that your guests are able to utilize the kiosks for ordering and paying. And then as far as the things that we're cutting down is maybe smaller, there could be shared spaces for the actual seating. So we may not be building out a dining room, or if we are building out a dining room, it may be more limited seating, a smaller space, or something that's again shared across the board. When we look at the equipment, going in and saying, okay, do we need to have the sales volume as piece of this, right? So do we need to have that 4-foot grill or that 6-foot grill? So going in and optimizing the kitchen layouts as well. We've really been able to streamline our kitchen layout and refine that equipment, the equipment needed or necessary for those sales volumes based off of just past history that we've been able to forecast those things out. The other factor with Wiener Schnitzel is we do own our own equipment company as well. So that does give us some efficiencies and costs, or or being able to source some products or equipment at a less expensive level where we're servicing that equipment, we're installing that equipment. As far as when we're doing construction in the markets, we do go through contractors typically in the local market, and we do go through getting bids from multiple contractors or vendors to see where we can reduce the costs and the expense as much as possible.
Okay. It's neat to hear that, like you were mentioning, that a lot of these don't have the drive-through. So you get like there's some basically you're trading kiosks for the drive-through technology, which is an interesting thing to see. How about your menu? Like, do you typically do a full menu in these in the non-traditional ones, or do you cut down the menu at all? Like, what's the menu look like versus a typical brick and mortar?
So the Walmart menus are actually going to be our full menu. So that will
Okay.
be the same. So any guest can get the same items that they can get at any of our brick and mortar locations. So they'll be able to receive at the Walmart locations as well. With military bases and the airports, oftentimes the airports require breakfast to be served. So we do have a breakfast menu that does get applied to the menu as an option
Tell me about the
to be
breakfast
served.
menu at Wiener. I mean, do you have breakfast hot
Yeah.
dogs? Like, what does that look like? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
all about a hot dog at breakfast.
So
Hot dogs anytime.
yeah,
Yeah.
typically one of the things that you look for when you're in these non-traditional spaces is what operational efficiencies too, right? So you don't want to add a bunch of different SKUs. So it's utilizing products that we already have in house. Like we have our chili for our chili cheese dogs and our chili cheese fries and that sort of thing. So it's adding egg. We do wraps. We do chili cheese wraps with our hot dog and chili and French fries. So utilizing instead of putting the hot dog in there, we put eggs in there, and do a chili cheese egg wrap, using hash browns, instead of French fries. Those are the types of things that we look for, optimizing the menu, but still utilizing the proteins. We use bacon on our loaded chili cheese fries and several of the hot dogs. So using that with eggs instead of the hot dog. So trading out that protein piece of it is typically how that is handled on that restaurant on
But
the
can you still
menu
get a
side.
hot
So
dog at breakfast time at the airport? Or is it breakfast food only?
I think
Asking for a
Shira really
friend.
wants a hot dog for
Yeah,
breakfast.
because
Like, you
like I
gotta.
go to I travel all the time, and in the mornings I go to some of these restaurants and I see that it's only breakfast. And I'm
only
like,
breakfast,
no,
yeah.
I want that hot dog, or I want that burger. I don't want the breakfast thing.
Right. Well, and we do have breakfast on the breakfast menu is actually offered in some of our traditional brick and mortar locations as well. And they have some of our franchise partners have actually had pulled the breakfast menu out of their restaurant because even though they were open at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, the guests that were coming through were not ordering breakfast. They were ordering the chili cheese dogs and the hot dogs. So it is available at that time in the morning because you like traveling. I mean, we all travel all the time. So sometimes when I'm landing someplace, it's lunchtime for me. It's breakfast time there, so, or vice versa. So, and then the other piece of it, we do have, there's sometimes some limitations on what is allowed to be served based off the contract. So we do modify our menus when we need to. If we can serve our entire menu, that's always our preference. But there are some cases where serving the entire menu doesn't necessarily make sense. One of the great benefits about Wiener Schnitzel is that we do have a really optimized menu with very few items that are served in multiple different ways. So we have our hot dog, we have our beef dog, we do have a vegetarian smart dog option as well. We have our Polish sausage, and then really, they're served in wraps and hot dogs and different in the hot dog buns, and then they're topped differently, right? So the toppings are really where that gives us the variety of items. We do limited time offers. Our limited time offers are transferred into those non-traditional spaces as well, so that they can be offered there also. The only time that if something isn't is if it is contractually not allowed to be in the contract. So
Sherry, you can get your hot dog for breakfast. It sounds like
yes,
you just got to find a Wiener Schnitzel.
with
Thank
the chili.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Exactly.
I'll get it with chili cheese and mustard on it. It.
There you go. So, Shaq, we've kind of mentioned this topic a couple times, but I wanted to get a little different take on it. And it's around, some of the things that are different about the non-traditional aspects versus a typical brick and mortar. You mentioned loyalty programs, right? And so one of the things that at least in my experience, sometimes in these venues, when you go into them, they don't let you use your typical technology stack and they force you to kind of use whatever their operator's technology stack is.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys handle that? Like, are you still able to offer loyalty and mobile app and all that kind of fun stuff?
So that's something, our IT team they're quite sophisticated, and we've got a great platform, and they've got a great knowledge base to be able to work with any of the vendors out there or any of the companies out there to try to optimize that exact thing, right? How do we make this seamless for the guest or the customer on that end? To date, so far, we've been very fortunate that we've been able to utilize our systems. And so we haven't had to accommodate that, but we do have, we're a 65-year-old brand. So we do have, we have gone through iterations of different POS systems and the technology that has transferred with that piece of it. So there has been that transition of working off of, how do we integrate this old technology, because not all of our franchisees have converted to the new POS system, and making those things work seamlessly, like the mobile app and loyalty programs where they can utilize that, and that's done seamlessly on the back end. So our IT team does spend a lot of hours making sure that all of those things work. And that there's those APIs that connect to and talk to the different programs and the different types of software that are out there.
Well, I love it when I hear folks in the business praise the technology teams. So that's thanks for that, because I know everybody works hard and the technology teams do too. That's amazing, right? Because one of the worst guest experiences you can have, and we've all had it, is when you roll up to one of your favorite brands in one of those venues and you can't use your app or your points or your loyalty aspects.
Or your gift card.
Yes.
That is my pet peeve at airports. I can't use my gift card.
Right. So kudos to you guys for being flexible enough and figuring out how to do that. So best wishes on continuing that particular trend. That's a big win.
Yeah, I think, and this is something too. While we don't have any college campuses that are onboarded at this point, it is an area that we're focused on, exploring and seeing where we can partner with them. I know a lot of the college campuses have their cards that are specific to like their food program for their students, right? So like being able to utilize those types of those types of things are all factors when we're thinking about going into these places. Like, okay, now how do we also make it really easy for that consumer, that guest, to use us and be able to use that card that they're using for everything else? And we don't want them to come to us and be like, oh well, I can't use my card there to get food, but I have to, but I can use it everywhere else. So also accommodating those types of things as well on the technology side.
And that's great that you guys can do that and are navigating a path to that, because it can be very, very challenging, especially with some of the requirements some of the venues put on you.
Mm-hmm.
So one more question before we let you go. When it comes to your franchisees and these non-traditional, are these corporate-owned locations when you're going into Walmarts and military bases, or are you working with franchise partners on those as well?
So both. We operate locations throughout the system. The first one we will be opening, the first Walmart location in Tempe, is going to be a corporate build out and run operation. The other 5 that we are currently in development with and will be opening over the next couple months with those guys are all franchise partners.
Because are you trying to get all the kinks worked out? Is that why you're doing the first one?
We have great partnerships with our franchise partners, and we really respect their opinions in the end and want to partner with them. And when we go into these spaces, especially on the non-traditional side where there's so many unknowns, to go into it and expect a franchisee to kind of figure it all out is really not the strategy we wanted it to take. So we wanted to go into this first one and say, okay, here's all the things that we've run into a couple hiccups with working with the different municipalities across multiple different states is always going to be, for traditional or non-traditional, is always going to be something. But also getting in there and you think, okay, well, we have this box space in Walmart, the walls are already there, the outlets are already there, there's some infrastructure that's there, what does that look like? But really getting into that piece of it and then going through that. And the other piece of that was so that we could really say, okay, we want to build this out, and we're really trying to come in within a certain threshold from a build out cost perspective. And if we don't do that, it's really hard for us to really understand what that looks like exactly. So as we continue to grow in the non-traditional space and continue our goal is to look at these Walmarts after they open and hopefully continue to develop Walmarts in other high performing markets that have high volume Walmarts where we can go in and we can expand our footprint, and that gives a franchise opportunity, or an opportunity for a franchise partner to come in at a much less investment level. If they're in a market where we don't have presence in the brick and mortar space already, and it allows them to build that in a different way than just opening a brick and mortar store and then going into that. Or our existing franchisees gives them the opportunity to expand their network outside of where they currently are and go into some new areas with those Walmarts. But we wanted to make sure that we had that blueprint and that cost. So it was really important for us to partner with them and also let our franchisees know, like, hey, we're in this with you together. Like, there's going into this, there's always going to be, some speed bumps along the way, right? Because it's a brand new venture with the Walmarts in the non-traditional space there. And we wanted to make sure that we were with them side by side and working with them through that. So as we were experiencing certain things, we could share that experience with our franchise partners.
Well, I just think it's really interesting, and I think it's great that such a legacy brand like you guys are on the cusp and, embracing innovation and technology. And we really appreciate you, Shaq, coming by and sharing those learnings with us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a wonderful speaking with both of you guys today, and love speaking about the non-traditional development because it's definitely something that I'm super passionate about and really enjoying being able to do that with this legacy brand and expanding our footprint across the U.S.
It's amazing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And let's stay tuned for our next segment featuring 2 executives from Fat Brands.
Welcome to Synergistic Bites, the art of co-branding at Fat Brands. I'm Mandy Detweiler, editor of QSR Web, and I'm here today with Allison Laurenstein, brand president of Fat Brands Quick Service Division, and Jake Birchtold, COO of Fat Brands Fast Casual Division, and we're going to be talking about all things co-branding, which Fat Brands is doing with great success. Thank you both for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, let's jump right in. How do you identify which of your brands are the best candidates for co-branding partnerships, and what factors do you consider beyond just a complimentary menu?
So obviously, complimentary menus is obvious, but there's many factors that go into what brands we think will fit best together, right? We'll look at brand recognition in a region. We'll look at customer demographics. Do either of the brands have an existing market presence? And then we also look at the space. Is it a new build or is an existing building that we're going to add a brand into? So right now in the fast casual division, we've got Fatburger, Buffalo's Express, Hot Dog on a Stick, Johnny Rockets, and Elevation Burger. And between all those, we have some sort of co-brand or tri-brand working. For Fatburger, we've combined the Buffalo's Express, which is a spin-off from the larger casual brand of Buffalo's Cafe. And we've also included Johnny Rockets and the Hurricanes Grill and Wings spin-off, which we're calling Hurricanes Express. It all started for us back in 2013 when we combined Fatburger and Buffalo's Express. And that's really paved the way for us in our co-branding and now tri-branding and soon to be quad branding experience. Whereas today we now have over 120 co and tri brands across the fast casual division.
Wow. Allison, what about you? What are you seeing in the quick service division?
Yeah, so when evaluating co-brand opportunities, we tend to look at, addition to what we've already talked about, is seasonality, guest behavior, overall sales flow, and then how the brands can balance each other out operationally. With, for instance, with Great American Cookies and Marble Slab Creamery, ice cream tends to be a highly seasonal product and peaks during the warmer months, while cookies provide a steadier cash flow. So pairing the two together helps to really balance out profitability year-round, giving franchisees an additional sales channel during months when one concept might otherwise be slower.
That makes sense. What are the biggest operational challenges that you face when integrating two different restaurant concepts under one roof? We're talking about kitchen flow to staffing.
I think right off the bat, it's kitchen equipment integration. How do we be as efficient as possible, and how do we utilize the space, right? We want to look at it and we approach it first from a customer's perspective. How do we make it a cohesive, seamless experience? I think, for the customer, we've all seen in the past, in years before, other brands trying to combine two brands, but they were still really standalone brands. And I think that was confusing for the customer. And so our approach was, how do we make it cohesive? How do we make it seamless? And really avoid two restaurants in one feeling. So blending them together as best as possible.
Yeah, and I would just add that training, for us tends to be one of our bigger operational challenges, as franchisees and their teams must now really learn how to operate multiple brands at once. So to simplify this, we built an online training portal that offers resources to give step-by-step guidance to our teams so they can more confidently manage the multiple brands in a single location. So by trying to address these challenges up front, we feel like we set up our operators for long-term success.
How do your marketing teams collaborate to ensure that each brand's unique identity is maintained while also promoting the new combined experience?
Sure, it's a good question, and it's a complex question. It's really different for each of our co-brands. If you look at all of our standalone brands, what we first want to identify as an internal term that we use is, what's the anchor brand here? So let's take, for example, a co-brand of a Fatburger and a Buffalo's Express. we really view Fatburger as the anchor brand. That's the standalone brand. And then the Buffalo's Express is more of the add-on with the addition of the menu items. And so in that example, we'll use Fatburger as the main voice of both of those brands in the co-brand, right? Whereas what we're doing more recently with co-branding Roundtable Pizzas and Fatburgers, those both on their own are very strong, independent, standalone brands. And so we felt it was important for each of those brands to maintain their brand voices, to speak to their existing customer bases, and try to blend, I would say, the trade dress more inside the restaurant. So it's a balancing act depending on what brands that we're co-branding.
Allison, what about you? What are you seeing in terms of marketing?
Yeah, so our marketing approach is all about trying to highlight the strengths of each brand while also offering something new and exciting for customers when they come into our locations. So we rely a lot on creating LTOs or limited time offers, and that's a useful tool that allows us to showcase the best of each brand. And these items or activations really help to preserve the brand identity, but also complement how well the brands work together. So for instance, at Great American Cookies and Marbleside Creamery, we recently launched stuffed cookies and stuffed ice cream in partnership with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups and Oreos. And so by pairing these two iconic brands with our brands, it really gives our customers a way to enjoy the treats, whether they want ice cream or cookies.
Jake, this is a question for you about the fast casual division. Do you find it different to do co-branding than QSRs?
I don't know if it's different. It may be a little bit more complex because of the menu offerings at some of our QSR brands versus our fast casual brands. I think it's important to understand the basis and the identity of the brand. What is our objective by trying to co-brand, and then putting out that path towards execution. Sometimes we look at it when looking at brands, it's not can we do it, it's if we should do it. Does this make sense? Does this make sense for our customers? And does this make sense for our franchisees? So as I alluded to earlier, each of these co-brands is a little complex in each of their combinings, but with the teams that we have working behind the scenes, we tend to make it happen.
So what are the data points that you analyze to measure the success of a co-branded location, and how does that differ from a standalone unit?
We focus on metrics that really highlight that incremental value, including average ticket size, transaction counts, and overall foot traffic. So with our co-branded locations, we expect to see guests purchasing items from both menus, which naturally will increase the check size and frequency. So the goal for these concepts, when we put them together, is to perform better in a co-branded setting versus a standalone setting.
Yeah, I think another thing that we look at that stands out is really, does this make sense for our customer? And in some instances where we look at it, the franchisee is our customer, right? So what is this going to cost a franchisee to implement? What is their initial investment, and what's their return on investment, right? And what we've seen is that, for example, with the latest co-branding of Roundtable Pizza and Fatburger, that we've been able to capture new day parts where with the addition of a Fatburger, we've captured a much larger lunch market where Roundtable Pizza has really maintained their dinner day part. And so just those incremental sales alone for that franchisee is really proving a positive ROI for them. We've been, like I said earlier, we've been doing this for 12 years. So we've got kind of a playbook set up. And what we're always going to target 10 to 30% incremental sales by combining brands, and sometimes even more with some of our larger brands like a Roundtable Pizza and a Fatburger to going together versus, just adding a Hurricanes wings into the Johnny Rockets.
Gotcha. How do you handle potential cannibalization of sales between the two brands in the same location, particularly if their menus have some overlap?
Yeah, we intentionally design our co-branded menus to be complementary to each other rather than competitive. And so having that up front is critical for us. We don't want we want guests to come in and feel comfortable choosing whether they want one brand or the other, or sometimes both. For instance, we have a lot of our guests that would come in for a cookie cake, and they would add a quart or a pint of ice cream to that, or vice versa.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Definitely, you need to look at both menus going into the co-brand. How do we have a process where we optimize both menus into one menu, and make sure that they're not competing? So for an example, going back to the Roundtable Pizza and Fatburger, several Roundtable locations are called clubhouse locations, where they've got the party halls and a larger expanded menu outside of the core pizza menu. And so what we did is we would remove any sandwiches or sliders that those Roundtable locations would have, just to make sure that they're not competing with Fatburger and that we're highlighting Fatburger's core menu items, the burgers, the fries, and the shakes.
Gotcha. Could you elaborate on the process of creating a unique guest experience in co-branded stores? How do you merge the ambiance and the customer journey of two different concepts?
The key is to preserve each brand's uniqueness within that shared space. So, what we don't want, as Jake said earlier, is to just, plunk two brands together and hope for the best, right? We want to make sure that there's synergy and cohesion between the two brands. We want, when they walk in, a customer, we want them to feel like they're stepping into one concept, right, without losing the personality. So there might be nuances in colors, but there's always going to be, something that carries through the entire restaurant, so that a consumer feels welcome in there. And we want them to experience each brand, right? So we want them to come in and try as many flavors of ice cream as they want. And that's something that's core to the brand of Marbleside Creamery, part of our DNA. So that is something that's very important we have to maintain, whether it's a standalone or a co-brand environment.
Yeah, no, again, it really depends on what brands that we're adding together. Take, for example, Johnny Rockets and Hurricane Wings. Johnny Rockets, the retro, nostalgic burger brand, we can't afford to lose that identity, right? That's what our customers have known to love and keep coming back for. And so the Hurricane Wings is more of an add-on for the menu. Similar for the Fatburger and the Buffalo's Express, right? Trying to seamlessly integrate under that Fatburger identity. But then we have the example of Roundtable Pizza and Fatburger again, where we've really got to adapt to the existing footprint depending on the existing Roundtable Pizza location, because what we're doing right now is we've got a lot of Roundtable Pizzas with very large footprints. And so we've got availability of space that's being underutilized to add a brand. And so adding that Fatburger into the Roundtable Pizza, it's maintaining that Roundtable Pizza guest experience that the guests have come and known to love over the years, while introducing them to Fatburger. So it's really analyzing each brand, each combination, and their identities very carefully, but always focusing on that guest experience, because that is the ultimate underlying driver of the success of the co-brand or the tri-brand.
From a franchisee's perspective, what are the primary benefits and challenges of operating a co-branded location, and how does Fat Brand support them throughout the process?
Sure. I think it comes down to introducing, when you bring a broader menu and new menu items, you're introducing those offerings to a wider demographic that may not have been there previously, right? So take, for example, we've got 40 or so Roundtable Pizzas up in Sacramento area, and it may be there may not be a lot more opportunity to grow those Roundtable Pizzas. So by offering the franchisee the opportunity to co-brand with a Fatburger, we're just opening that location up to a wider demographic that might not have been there originally, right? And then from a franchisee's perspective, we're also looking at kitchen efficiencies. How do we, as I stated earlier, we can't just build two kitchens, right? So how do we integrate two kitchens to execute those menus? And then how do we scale this? We've got supply chain working behind the scenes. We've got our marketing teams working behind the scenes. As Allison talked about earlier, we've got the training department working behind the scenes to make sure that this is seamless as possible for our franchisees. And so it's really a team effort to make it happen.
How do you balance maintaining the individual brand heritage of a classic concept like Johnny Rockets with the need to innovate through co-branding? You might have already touched on this.
Johnny Rockets is such a strong brand and it's been around. So when we add the Hurricane Wing model, which is more of a fast casual model, it's really just the addition of the menu items. Johnny Rockets is, in our terms, that anchor brand that's going to maintain that voice. And just making sure that the items that are coming from Hurricanes are complementary to the Johnny Rockets menu. It's not something that's going to be confusing for our customers. So it's definitely still maintaining the focus and the voice of Johnny Rockets.
What about technologies such as the POS system or loyalty programs? What roles do they play in making co-branded efforts more seamless and effective?
The technology is critical for us in our co-branding strategy, as we really want to create a unified experience for both guests and operators. We don't want there to be any friction there. So we really want to ensure that the experience that they're getting, whether it's in person or online, is going to be seamless. So for instance, at Great American Cookies and Marbleside Creamery, we're among one of the first concepts to launch a co-branded loyalty app. And what this allows is for that consumer, again, to come into our locations and be able to choose from either brand, but still get credit on their app and get the points that they want, right? So consumers can earn rewards across both menus. And this really helps to avoid any confusion or friction from a consumer's perspective. So by seamlessly integrating these brands into one shared platform, we're really creating a more consistent experience and lowering the overall, again, friction for franchisees and our guests.
Yeah.
Jake, what do you see?
Well, in a sense, it's a little bit easier when we're combining one of our casual brand spin-offs, such as Buffalo's Express or Hurricane Wings, into a Johnny Rockets or a Fat Burger, because those are more or less simply menu additions that our restaurant technology team can add into the database. The tricky part really comes with loyalty and gift cards, especially as we're undertaking the co-brand of Round Table Pizza and Fat Burger, right? You've got two strong brand identities, two loyal followings, and that's where we really got to rely on our tech partners to come up with solutions for a frictionless guest experience, like Allison talked about. It's not always easy, but as long as we lay out that roadmap, identify what we want to accomplish, we can typically get the job done.
Looking at different consumer demographics for a brand like Great American Cookies versus Elevation Burger, how do you tailor your co-branding strategy to appeal to the broader customer base?
With co-branding, you're automatically appealing to a larger demographic, right, through that inherited loyalty for each brand. So this allows us to instantly expand our reach while still keeping each concept true to its roots. So we really also strategically select our areas for co-branded locations by looking at the overall demographics in the area to ensure that there is some overlap and that there's also enough consumers that fit our demographics in that area, so that we'll be able to ensure that we're going to be able to support both brands.
Yep, spot on. It really just provides us an opportunity to introduce new concepts, new menu items, to new customers that may not have come into the existing location in the first place. So broader exposure with combined brands.
Do these co-branded units require larger footprints, or are you able to squeeze them into what would be a regular footprint?
Really depends on the brands. For Fat Burger, adding a Buffalo's Express, we're really just utilizing some of that existing equipment and then bringing in extra supply chain items like the sauces and the packaging to drive those incremental sales. Whereas combining a Fat Burger and a Round Table Pizza, those may need a little bit of a larger space. But as referenced earlier, some of these existing Round Table Pizzas do have underutilized space. And so we're able to add the Fat Burger in while being as efficient with that space as possible. And really going back to looking at this from a franchisee's perspective, looking at the investment that it's going to cost them and looking at the return on investment. So how do we do this as efficient as possible?
Allison, what do you see in terms of the QSR footprints?
Yeah, I mean, Jake, Jake hit it, most of the points. I'd say, for the QSR brands, again, we have a 174 Great American Cookies and Marble Slab Creameries. So we've been doing this for a while, and we've learned what works and doesn't work. And we can get really creative about getting into smaller spaces. And it's working with the franchisee also to say, okay, well, instead of 36 flavors or 24 flavors, we're going to go with 18. And that still gives great, variety to our consumers. And maybe instead of, 3 cookie cases, we'll go with 2 cookie cases, which again, still gives great variety to our consumer. And that allows us to really be creative and fit in the needs, back of the house needs and front of the house needs for each of those brands.
How do you approach the supply chain and vendor management for co-branded locations to ensure efficiency and cost effectiveness?
Yeah, it really depends on what region the co or tri brand's in. For example, in Los Angeles, where we started the tri brand of Fatburger, Buffalo's Express, and the addition of hot dog on a stick, ideally you would love as an operator to have one distributor, but that's not always the case. And so we're really relying on our supply chain team and our national account vendors to really bring it all together. And so we don't want the franchisees to worry about how the products get in the restaurant. That's our job as a franchisor and the supply chain team to address. But what we'll try to do is when we're looking at our growth strategy of where the next co-brands and tri-brands are, we'll look at regionally, where do we have distribution centers, where do we have existing brand presence, and look at that to go back to how do we make this as seamless as possible for the franchisee and making sure it's as efficient as possible, right? We don't want to go open up a co-brand in a new region where necessarily both brands don't currently exist, because then you're setting up a new opco. You may have problems or difficulties hitting minimum order quantities. So it's really looking at it from a strategic growth perspective.
What is the long-term vision for co-branding within the Fat Brands portfolio? Can we expect to see more unique pairings in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. With Great American Cookies and Marble Slab Creamery, we've experienced tremendous growth. And when potential new franchisees come to us, this is the pair that they really want because they understand the value. And we're starting now to even take a look at, how do we put different brands together? For instance, we have Round Table Pizza, and we just recently opened up a Round Table Pizza Marble Slab Creamery. So this gives an opportunity for that consumer to go in and experience dinner, and then also have their dessert. And so we're in the early stages with that, but we're confident that that concept is going to prove out to be very successful for our franchisees.
Yeah, look, co-branding and tri-branding, at least for Fat Brands, is here to stay. We even have our first quad brand coming up in Texas with a Fatburger, Buffalo's Express, Pretzel Maker, and Great American Cookies, right? It's all about increasing value for our franchisees, increasing value and offerings for our customer. Let's step back and take a look. It's no secret that rents are continuing to increase. Labor is continuing to increase. So by combining brands, it's just creating more value. Going back, driving kitchen efficiencies, driving training and labor efficiencies, exposing our existing franchisees' locations to a broader demographic with a larger menu, driving incremental sales, right? So this is here and it's here to stay.
What advice would you give to other restaurant groups considering a similar co-branded strategy? Looking back, having already done this, what do you wish you knew?
Yeah, I think an important part of our co-branding strategy is to really understand the consumer expectation for each brand. And for instance, as it relates to, the level of service, and make sure that meets the consumer's needs across those two brands. So for instance, having a fine dining with a QSR is probably not going to work, because the consumer coming in is going to have a very different expectation of what that is going to look like. So pairing brands that are have similar, customer experiences is extremely important. So, we want, when they walk into one of our co-brands or tri-brands or quad brands, we want, them to walk into a cohesive, high quality brand experience, versus two mismatched concepts that are just kind of, shoved together.
I think it all starts with the planning phase, right? Making sure that you've got a solid executable plan going into it and not jumping in, head first into the deep end, right? Menu optimization is also very critical. We can't make it too confusing for the customer. It can't be overwhelming for the franchisee and managing supply chain and their teams. And really looking at, we want to avoid just adding two brands together, because you're going to have too many SKUs. It's too confusing. So really looking at what is best for our franchisee, what is best for the consumer, make it efficient to operate, don't overwhelm the guests. And as I talked about earlier, it's not can we do it, right? Because we can really, technically, we could combine any brand, but it should we do it? Does it make sense?
Gotcha. Well, we are out of time. Allison, Jake, thanks so much for your time today. This has been excellent.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. It was great. Appreciate it.
Stay tuned for Building Your All-Star Squad, Mastering the Art of QSR Team Hiring, and we'll be right back. Welcome to Building Your All-Star Squad, Mastering the Art of QSR Team Hiring. We're going to be covering everything from recruitment to retention, and we've got two great panelists for you today. Samir Wattar, Chief Operating Officer for Lane's Chicken Fingers, and Patrick Conlon, President of Wayback Burgers. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
Well, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about your brands. Patrick, we'll start with you.
Okay. Thanks for having me. I'm Pat Conlon, the president of Wayback Burgers, and we're a Better Burger franchise company, 100% franchised, and we have about 160 locations across the U.S. Started back in 1991 in Newark, Delaware, and now we're in 35 states across the U.S. and in Canada also. And we're happy to be here, and we have a lot of great franchisees that we help out, and they help us out in sharing their best practices and in hiring great team members.
Great. Samir, what about you?
I'm Chief Operating Officer for Lane's Chicken Fingers, a brand that's got a lot of history. Started in 1994 in College Station, Texas. We started franchising in 2021. We have 33 locations open now in 7 states, and more to come.
Well, let's jump right in. What do you think is the single biggest mistake that QSRs make when writing job descriptions, and how can they fix it to attract game-changing talent? Patrick, if you want to start.
Yeah, funny, when you said that, I just thought of now the job description can be written by artificial intelligence, so a little bit different than it was when I first started in the restaurant business. But I think it shouldn't be a very dry description. It should be, we're looking for, and I'm sure Samir's looking for the same type of people, energetic people, self-starters. We can train anybody on how to make burgers, fries, and milkshakes, but can't train you on how to have a personality. And either you have that or you don't. So those are kind of the people that we want to attract. So we want to make sure that we have something in the job description that says we're not looking for robotic, mechanical people. We're looking for people with personalities that can do the job.
Samir, what about you?
Like Patrick said, I mean, AI can do everything for you right now, but the message in the job description, it should describe us as well, who we are, and that tells the potential hires what we're looking for. And energy, I agree. I mean, I can teach everybody how to fry chicken, but I cannot teach them how to smile. I cannot teach them how to talk to customers, how to raise their head from the phone and to talk to somebody. So we focus on describing who we are more than what we're looking for, so it attracts the same people that think like us.
Beyond pay and flexible hours, what are the most effective non-monetary benefits or perks that genuinely attract and retain top QSR candidates?
What we've been finding out lately, our employees, they want to feel they belong somewhere and they're part of something. We want them to believe in what we're doing, whether it's from the cashier to the fry cook, even to the office staff here. They believe in our mission and what we're trying to accomplish as a brand. And we have a motto, we call it Astro Chicken, and we have a chicken in a space helmet. And people think we have the chicken in a space helmet. It's going to be a long answer. I'm sorry. But it's not because it's a long answer, not because we sell chicken. It's there is a lot of meaning behind it. It has on it 1994. That's the year we were born, and that's very important to us. And the reason we have a chicken, if you look at a farm, chicken is the most ridiculous animal on the farm. It doesn't have any rhythm or anything. It pecks its head in the sand, tries to fly, knowing it cannot fly, and so we tell our employees, don't take yourself too seriously. Relax, have fun, enjoy what you're doing. And the reason we put the space helmet on a chicken, you cannot run a business that way. Don't take yourself seriously, but take everything we do very seriously, like flying to space. If you make one mistake, nobody is coming back. So it's always, we teach them how to balance, and we use it in coaching our employees. Like if I walk into a restaurant, I ask them, where are you on the Astro Chicken scale? Are you more chicken or more space helmet? Oh, you need to be more, let's try to be more chicken today. You're taking things too seriously. Relax and enjoy yourself. So we evolve everything around it, and it seems to work with our staff, and especially when we hire teenagers, they relate to it.
Patrick, what about you? Non-monetary benefits or perks that attract talent?
Yeah, similar. We want the team member or the potential team member to buy into our culture and to be aligned with our culture. A lot of younger people today want to be associated with a company that gives back to communities and has a charitable portion of their business. So we aligned ourselves with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and we give back to them, and we do special events in the restaurants across the country. So that has really resonated with a lot of the team members across the country. And then simple recognition, I think, with employees. We do mystery shop programs, video mystery shop programs, and we just came off a second round of those. So when, again, we're a franchise community, but when the shop comes back and a team member in that video shines, or they hit some certain criteria, the shopper rewards them on the spot, and then the franchisee. A lot of the franchisees have come to us and said, whatever the shopper is giving them, we're going to match whatever the prize is. So we make that announcement to the system and get the employees hyped up for that round and whatever we're doing. But the same thing with and it's really, employees want to be trained. They don't want to be left out there and not know what they're doing and make mistakes. So having well-trained employees and having the right tools to train them so that they're onboarded correctly, and make them feel confident and comfortable in their job goes a long way, instead of just leaving them to the wolves, which isn't doing them any good and not doing you any good. So you have to have that onboarding process to make them feel like a complete team member. And involving the employees, we want feedback from the team members in the restaurants because they're really on the front lines dealing with the guests on an everyday basis, and we want their feedback on what guests are looking for in terms of products. It may be or a suggestion from a team member on what they think may be a good LTO to launch for the system, or if there's a pain point in the restaurant that we may not see at the corporate level, that they have an open line of communication and they can and get back to us with that so that we can correct that and make them feel like they're a valued member of the brand.
How are you using social media or modern recruitment platforms to showcase your culture and draw in applicants who align with those same values? Samir, if you want to take that one.
I mean, everything is social media these days, and I want to add to the previous question. If with our corporate stores, we create a career path for the long-term employees that we also encourage them. I mean, I have a program personally where my calendar is open and we have employees that can come and talk to me, and we go behind closed doors. We talk about everything except the restaurant, and give them. I mean, I have my new restaurant opening manager right now. He started with us when he was 16. We worked with him, and then he became a GM, and now he's in charge of our new restaurant openings, and he's only 23 years old. So I have like 8 employees right now that come and they schedule 45 minutes with me, and we talk about life, we talk about leadership, we talk about career path, what do they want to do, and all that. And this travels. I mean, that kind of relates to the social media piece. Those employees start posting on social media. I just had a meeting with the CEO of the company on social media, and guess what? He talked to me about savings to buy a car, or save, or how to manage certain situation that employee is dealing with personally. That's keeping that line of communication open, and let them talk about it more than us. And we do that with our franchisees. When I visit franchisees, I do that with their, not the GM, the shift managers. We kind of work with them and guide them. Currently we have webinars to teach them how to do local store marketing, or how to do how to fry chicken, and get them engaged and let them talk about us on social media more than us selling ourselves.
Okay, Patrick, what about you? How are you all using social media in your hiring?
Yeah, I mean, we do it through hiring platforms, Indeed, and things like that, and Facebook. So Facebook, they get a better, the candidate will get a better feel for our culture because they can see our other consumer ads or franchise development ads that weaves in the culture to our system, and get a flavor for that. One of the other things just came to me. One of our franchisees, in asking him, and they have this particular franchisee has long tenured employees, which is somewhat unusual today in our business. And if you have that, you want to definitely keep that because you have a lot of time, money, and resources invested in that person. But I said, how do you hire people? And he said, I do all the interviews myself, or my manager, who had been with him since day one. And he said, aside from the regular interview questions, the first thing that he asked them, and the first time he's meeting with them, is, what was the last birthday present you bought for a family member? And I made a face like you just made, and I thought that was interesting. And I said, where did that come from, or what's the reason for it? He said, because he said it gets them, kind of breaks the ice, and it gets them to start talking about, oh, well, it was my mom's birthday last week, and I bought her a this sweater that she really wanted, or whatever. So it kind of puts the candidate at ease, but it also gives you a little bit more insight into their personality. So I thought that was just a very interesting thing to do on an interview in our workspace, and wanted to share it with everybody.
Okay, so in the current labor market, is it better for a job description to focus on immediate tasks, or is the long-term career path and development within the QSR organization more important? Do you think it's the short term or the long term that you should be advertising in your job? Samir?
I think you should be advertising the opportunity and advertising what you can accomplish from joining us. And that's what we do. If you look at our restaurants and even our franchisees, everybody started in the restaurant. And once you have that culture of belonging, and I appreciate what you're doing, and we're in a unique position where we're growing and people talking about us makes them excited. I want to create that and use that to our advantage. We love to see employees that start with corporate stores or franchise stores that start as a cashier and now they're running a restaurant. And we're there as a support team, as a company. We're here to support them and get them there. Because, not everybody wants to go to college. Not everybody wants to afford college these days. So we
Right.
create a career path for them.
Patrick, what about you? Long term or short term?
Our goal and what we try and coach our franchisees on is it's more long term, and you can show them that career path where they start out as a prep person, and typically as a younger person, and go through to becoming a shift leader, a manager, a general manager. But then by being in the food service space, they get to see a lot of other different avenues, career paths, whether it's in the restaurant or through a food distributor. And now they start asking questions about the U.S. foods and how those trucks come in, how the items get to the warehouses. So it opens up a whole world in our business of different avenues. We'd love for them to stay in the restaurant side of the restaurant operations side of it, but there's a world of opportunity in our business inside the restaurants, outside the restaurants, and we've had several people that have come from working with our franchisees that have then come to work in the corporate office. So there is a career path that's not just, it's a dead-end job being a fry cook or a chef. I think you have to show them that opportunity, and it's there for those people who want to take that opportunity. Like Samir said, not everybody is going to college, and you can make a career and a pretty good one out of the restaurant industry.
Even going to college. I have several examples where we have employees that started with us in high school. They went to college, and when they come back on breaks, we are their first call. They want to come work for us, whether it's a company store or a franchisee. And we have a young lady that started with us when she was 16 years old and graduated high school, went to college, and we had her intern with us. She's majoring in accounting. We had her intern with us a couple of summers. Guess what? She's graduating in a couple of months, and she has a job with us in our accounting department. So yeah, and it's not, once you start showing that, it's not, this is not a dead end job. I think that's the best way to do it. There is opportunities, and the restaurant business, the food industry has so many avenues, whether it's marketing, supply chain, accounting, operations. There is path that you can take where you fit, and it's on us as leaders to figure out where they fit and guide them toward that.
So, what's an innovative or creative technique that you all are doing that successfully revealed a candidate's true potential? Is there any kind of interview question or a unique technique that you guys are using, something creative outside the box?
It's I can't quantify it. It's all gut feeling when you meet the person, whether in a franchise restaurant or a company restaurant. You see that thing. You see something that appeals, and say, you know what, that person could make a great trainer. That person could make a great district manager. How can I get them there? it's not a question, is interacting and keep talking to those employees and be present. I'm not somebody, I don't want them to think I'm somebody that's sitting in an office and making decisions. I want them to be, I'm available for them, and whatever it is. It's hard for me to quantify it. It's a gut feeling, and me as a leader staying true to what I've found and staying true to it and keep developing it.
Patrick, what about Wayback Burgers? Tell me a little bit about something creative that you guys use in your hiring.
Well, the example that I used before for the question that the franchisee throws out there in the interview, we've stolen that and shared that with other franchisees. It doesn't necessarily have to be that question, but it's something to, don't want to say catch the candidate off guard, but ask them a question not about the job, just so you get that conversation going. Especially if it's a younger person, they're going to be, they're going to be shy. Maybe it's their first interview, so they're not used to, they're nervous. They're not used to taking questions like this. So kind of put them at ease, but and make it more conversational, so you see what kind of a person that they are, because ultimately it's that person that you're hiring for whatever the task is, and you want to make sure that they're going to be able to converse with the guests in the restaurant, the other team members, and that they're going to align with your culture.
With the fact that these are often entry-level roles and some of these employees or potential employees have never had a job before, this might be their first interview, their first big job. What are the soft skills managers should prioritize? And how can they reliably test for them during a short interview? What are some of the soft skills that are needed?
I mean, are they looking at you? These are soft skills. Are they smiling? Are they Are they sitting hunched down, or are they sitting up and talking to you? And these are the soft skills we teach everybody. And what are you looking for? And the biggest advice I give everybody is, don't hire when you need. Hire in anticipations of what you need. Because if you wait till the last second, you're gonna hire whoever walks in the door. But if you're planning for your business, hire in anticipation and start looking months before. We do that in the restaurant at our corporate office. Uh, we hired in the anticipation what we try to accomplish, and the soft skills is the biggest one these days. Is, are they looking at you? Or because everybody, especially, I mean, the young generation is, they're used to be on their phone texting, and they're always looking down. Are they looking up at you and smiling and engaging in a conversation? It's not a yes or no question.
Patrick, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I completely agree, and don't hire for need. Um, Always be hiring every day. Always be hiring, because you could be fully staffed, and you have that rock star young person that comes through the door looking for a job. You'll find hours for that person, and they'll make everybody else better in the restaurant, because the person that's the employee or the team member that's average, we're going to say, why did they hire somebody when we're fully staffed? I don't get it. And maybe they lose a couple of hours, or maybe they up their game, the average employee, and that other employee, now that their hours get cut, maybe they say, this isn't for me. They got a great person that came in. So, like Samir said, you never want to hire because you have to hire somebody, because then you don't want to hire just a warm body that comes through the door. That never works out for anybody. So every day, people always say, well, how many employees do I need? And I say, you're going to need employees every day, and you're going to be hiring every day, even if you're fully staffed. Don't because when you're hiring from a point of weakness, you're going to make mistakes, and that's going to affect the business in the restaurant.
Tell me a little bit about your onboarding process. Do you all use any kind of videos, or is it just strictly paper material? Do you kind of do a hybrid? Does your manager step in and help with onboarding?
Yeah, I mean, our expectations, and we roll it out to our franchisees. The general manager does the onboarding, and it's a hybrid between videos uh, and paper. Uh, this is the only, and we want it done at a time where you're free, nobody is bothering you, because you're setting expectations from day one. And this is the only time, this is the only chance. It's the same thing with the customer that's walking into your restaurant the first time. First impressions are lasting impressions. You set your expectation during that time, and that goes a long way. So and I like my preference is we always do onboarding and orientation in the afternoon at the slowest time in the day, because the general manager is focused on the employee, not everything else.
Right. Patrick?
We have both. We have video platforms that have training materials on them, and then tests for that portion of the video, the training procedures, quizzes for the team members to take and complete, and that gets warehoused so we can see how they did, and the franchisee can keep it. But I think most importantly, who the trainer is at the restaurant. Not everybody can be a trainer. Not everybody is good at training someone else. So it's important to identify that person who's good at it, who likes it, who's going to take it as a responsibility of their job, in addition to everything else that they do at the restaurant, whether it's a general manager or a shift leader or a manager. You need somebody who can teach people. That's important, and who can relate to people, because they're going to take that new person and mold them, and you don't want to do it at a Friday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon lunchtime, that and the person's not going to learn because they're thrown to the fire. So I think it's important, and it's important to do ongoing training with everybody, so every 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, that new hire should have a review and go over everything. But then training the whole team when a new LTO is being launched, and let them make it before it launches to the public. When you're bringing out a new item, let them prepare it, let them make it with the training material that we send them, let them taste it, so that they can explain it to the guests and tell them why this is a great new burger or a great new milkshake that we're coming out with, so that they have firsthand knowledge of that product. So training is not one and done at the beginning. It's an ongoing process, and in addition to the videos and the paper materials that we have in the restaurants, we do ongoing monthly webinars, not just for the franchisees, but for their managers and any of their employees that want to join in, on different training procedures, different new products that are coming out, so that they're up to date. And then those things get warehoused on our back office platform so that they can access that at any point.
All right, well, we are out of time. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
That'll do it for Building Your All-Star Squad. Stay tuned for our next session.
This franchise has a really good product. It's just a different level of the bagel. We're not competing with other brands that have a frozen product.
And I think that's what's our biggest difference, is that we're a scratch bakery. We roll the bagels, we proof them. The next morning, we will then boil and bake them fresh for you. And we do that throughout the day.
And the community appreciates it. And there are coming more and more people. You see more regulars and regulars and regulars from all ages. It's a community bakery now.
There's joy in what we do, and we want to make sure that comes through, not just in the taste and freshness of the bagels, but just in the way we manage, our customer experience. We're trying to create core memories. Food is memory. Food is love. if we can keep recreating that, I think that's like our mission and our purpose.
Welcome back to QSR Next. I'm your host, Shara Kanzler, publisher of Fast Casual, and that was some fabulous insight on hiring from Sam and Patrick, right, Marcus?
It was absolutely great insight from them. And right now, I'm ready to dive into some restaurant profitability with Jackie and Taco John's. So,
That's perfect. So Jackie, like you mentioned, is the COO of Taco John's. Jackie, thanks so much for being here.
Sure, thanks for the opportunity to join you.
So Jackie, Taco John's has a long history, but the brand is clearly in a period of growth and change, and your role inside the COO's plan for franchisee profitability is the focus of our conversation today. So can you start out by telling us about your core philosophy for enhancing your franchisee success?
Sure. So I think, after spending 30 years in the business, which is a scary thought for me lately, my core philosophy really boils down to partnership and relationships with franchisees, right? I've spent my entire career in the franchising business and very quickly came to know and recognize that nothing happens within a franchise organization without the foundational relationships and partnerships with franchisees. So their success is dependent on my success, and my success is dependent on their success. From a philosophy standpoint, it's really making sure that the partnership is there with franchisees on, any kind of initiatives or things that we're rolling out to the system. There has to be buy-in from every facet of the organization, whether it's the front line, the GMs working in our stores, franchisees, the folks inside of our organization. And in order for any of us to be profitable and successful, that's just a foundational part of what we need to aspire to. And really throughout my career, my most successful initiatives have really been because of those relationships that I built over the years.
okay. Jackie, I have such a wonderful soft spot in my heart for operators, COOs, franchisees. I've been in the industry for a long time as well, both on the operator side as a CIO of a couple hospitality organizations, now as a solution provider. Um, you know, Operators, like, that is such a critical role moving the operations forward. I know that you have some big plans at Taco John's above and beyond the relationships that you're building. What are some of those plans?
Yeah. So I guess I should start by telling you kind of where we are at Taco John's, right? We're a 50-plus-year-old brand, have been built kind of on those, foundational relationships or mom and pops, as many organizations have been. We've got a lot of franchisees that are single unit operators that are on third generation. And really grew up within the Taco John system. That's an amazing thing, an amazing culture to be part of, but it also presents some challenges along the way because, the people are used to doing things the way that they want to do, all for good reasons, right? And over the years, there's been shifting or nuancing to recipes, procedures, standards, depending upon geographics, the way people think their customers want to experience the brand. And that really helped Taco John's grow to where it is. But in order for us to be able to move beyond that and grow as an organization, it's really critical that we've got the standards and processes and kind of one way of doing things. So that is where we are at right now from a streamlining standpoint for the organization. And so there is a very large initiative for my team, whether that is the field team or op services or IT or anything that's related to operations, that we get to a single way of doing things. It's the only way that we can scale. And that also leads to the way that we support our franchisees and being able to evaluate their business or look for opportunities for them to tweak here, tweak there to add a little bit more to their bottom line or their top line sales when we look at, streamlining that. And I'll give you an example. When I came in, we were building a program that we were going out into the field to train on making a perfect taco. So back to basics, right? And I was sitting in a meeting and somebody said, well, why are we putting meat in the bottom of the shell? And somebody said, well, that's because that's the way we do it. And somebody said, well, when did we change that? And I went, okay, we've got a problem here. So that really began my journey on getting to standardization.
Wait, which is it? Do we put meat on the bottom?
Right.
Or do we put, is that the right way?
It is on the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, got
but
it.
I would say historically, the way that the brand began, it was sliding up the side. So there was some change management that needed to happen in there. And, getting the system to understand the implications of that from a training perspective, and building out training resources and material, we couldn't be successful at that because we were doing it multiple ways. So that is the undertaking for my team right now that will lead us to getting to a place where we've got better insights into profitability and can help franchisees manage that.
I was just going to ask a little bit more about the training. You said you were working on that. Are you guys using some technology? Are you doing modules on, where they can look on their phones, or is it still like old school notebooks? What's that look like?
No, we've got a platform that we use that we have advanced a little bit into the digitized world. But like every brand, I think, that has evolved over the years. And so there's an opportunity for us to kind of take a step back and even standardize that, the way that we do videos, the way that we do training resources, using phones and QR codes, because, that's the way 16-year-old kids learn now, right? So even, the standardization piece is affecting every aspect of our business as we kind of become a grown-up brand and use those resources to be able to scale.
Hey, you mentioned mobile phones and the way the younger generations learn. It's such a hotly debated topic. Like some people don't want people to use their phones because they believe the customer perception is that they're, not working and not taking training. I've always been a big believer of them using their mobile phones to do that. Jackie, where are you? It sounds like you're okay with them using their phones to learn and do
Yeah, and it's
training.
funny that you say that, Marcus, because I literally had a conversation with a group of franchisees yesterday about it, and we've got a number of franchisees that don't allow mobile phones on the floor, when stores are operating. So it's kind of finding the balance there and making sure that we're approaching things in a way that the people who are working in our stores want to be approached, or the way that they want to learn, and balancing that with making sure that we're giving a great customer experience, right? There's nothing more annoying than, the phone stuck under the counter when you're a consumer, interacting with somebody and not having somebody's full attention. So it's really finding the balance there and how can we implement those things that don't necessarily affect the guest experience.
How is all this directly affecting the franchisee bottom line? Because as you add these technologies and these new procedures, I assume there's some investment from them. And we all know that franchisees aren't always excited to cough up that money. So how are you getting them to see that it's going to be worth it in the end?
Yeah, and there's so much new technology out there. It's just insane to me. Every time, I feel like every morning that I wake up, there's like something new and cool and really exciting that costs $1 million to implement.
You should be the guy competing in that space. It is crazy.
I know. And as a smaller brand, we're never going to lead in those spaces. But we're always in tune to what other brands are doing and what's working and what isn't. For us, 60 to 70% of our business comes through the drive-through. So that's really where we are focused on streamlining technology. And really for us, it's about speed. And, I think for most QSRs it is, but we have a very small period of time, that lunch rush, that dinner rush, sometimes that breakfast rush, where we have got to get as many cars through that drive-through as we can. And so the technology that we're looking at is, how do we speed that up? How do we get one more car through the drive-through in a 15-minute time frame? We're working with a company called Presto AI, and leaning in through AI through our drive-through. We're just kind of at the beginning stages of that. We've been in a test for about 6 months and just have about 28 to 30 stores on it right now. And I think it's a lot of learning, and it's not perfect at first. So it's really taking kind of those baby steps and seeing, what the impact is, how can we improve it, what's the right greeting and suggestive sell and those types of things. And so, there's a lot of evaluation and ROI and showing people how this can work for them. And so, it's kind of about both things, like how do we improve sales and then use some of that improvement in revenue to invest in the things that are going to drive top line sales again. So it's a very cyclical process for us.
The AI at the drive-through is so intriguing to me. I spent a lot of time actually earlier this year kind of studying that space because I'm absolutely convinced that a great guest experience can be delivered that way. But I think you are doing it the exact right way, which is let's try it, let's see, let's get some learnings. To your point, it's incredibly hard, right? Like to get an AI to do the right things at these drive-throughs because of all the ambient noise, and it's got to filter out kids saying, "Mommy, I want this," or dogs barking or whatever. But I'm convinced we can get there. The challenge is, as interested to hear your take, is usually those systems don't come very cheap. They're relatively expensive, but it feels like the ROI is there. So, are you guys like you're in 20 restaurants? Are you feeling good about it?
We are. And I will tell you, I think some of the things that we've learned is it's probably not for everybody yet, right? To your point, we've got some very old assets that the speakers aren't great, or the car stack isn't great for this. So we've had a lot of learnings through it, and we're developing, okay, so if we wanted to get that store on it because we feel that it was valuable, what are the things that need to be true to make that happen? And just silly things like, changing the voice of we call her Olena.
Okay.
That
Now, where
changing the
did that come
voice.
from? Where did Olena come from? How
Well,
did you guys
we
come
are
up?
known for our potato olays, and I must tell you
Ah,
that once you try one, you are addicted for life.
okay.
So Olena is, who we call our AI, but we've changed her voice, even for the crew working as they're listening to it. Just the change in the voice makes it
Yep.
not so monotonous for them.
Was
right?
it? Did you change it to be deeper or higher or what?
Male, female, so we got to come up with a male name, I guess. But
Oh
yes,
gosh.
yes. And the great thing is that we learn from it every day, right? So I think one of the most fascinating things for me that I'm like, who would have known that we know when Olena suggests a large Mountain Dew when somebody orders a potato olay, 90% of the time they take it. And so those are the things, those are the learnings and the insights that we gain from this that help us then manage and just be very intentional about the way we suggestive sell, right? Because we know what works and what doesn't work.
And it's a lot easier to get Olena to ask if they want a large Mountain Dew than a 16-year-old employee who's sick of asking.
Well, that's the other thing we discovered. We encourage that every transaction there's a suggestive sell, and what we found out was during the lunch rush, which makes sense, people shortchange it, right? And don't do that. And so really, when we implemented this, we discovered that our line times actually increased a little bit throughout lunch, but that was because the suggestive sell was happening at every transaction where it wasn't before. So we've done some things like speeding up the voice and tailoring the suggestive sell message to get back to our line times and then reduce line times, so we're meeting our goal of getting enough cars or getting more cars through the drive-through.
That's a win-win with the extra suggestive sell. I mean, to Shara's point, it becomes almost another sales channel, right? That you can count on. I mean, the ops intentions are always great, but it's not an always all the time thing, as you mentioned. They drop it when they get a little pressed for time. So
Sure.
that's really cool that you've been
They're
able to.
human. Yeah.
Yeah, you saw the time expand. You saw check expand, though. You saw time expand. But if you can get the time back and keep the check expansion, that's pretty cool.
And that's what we're beginning to see as we, so it's a, and really, when we started this, it's super important with the franchisees that you go into this with an honest conversation, right? We don't expect to see results immediately. And so it's important to get the buy-in from the franchisees and just level set on what the expectations are. And we may see some downside to it in the beginning, but we're all going to learn together and work to improve it.
Okay, you mentioned the drive-through AI as part of your streamlining of operations. Are you investigating other parts of your tech stack, whether it's loyalty or point of sale or back office or any of those things? Are you guys investigating those as well?
Yeah, so we within the past 2 to 3 years have changed POS systems, and that has really helped us in streamlining, in standardization, right? Like when you've had a POS system that's been around for a number of years, there's a lot of variance. So having that new POS system definitely has helped. And then it's really simple things, right? We're looking at the KVS screens and how do they stack up and what shows up there, and do we have one for DoorDash and one for in-store and one for drive-through? And, do we need that drink on the KVS that's over the prep line, or does that just need to be at the drive-in window? So it's really, making it as simple as possible for the people that are working in our stores to be able to execute. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a firm believer, if we make their jobs harder, we're never going to move anything forward, right? You've got to keep that 16-year-old kid in mind as you're developing these things, because whatever they're feeling goes right across the counter to our guests. So, just making sure that we're keeping them happy is paramount to us.
I'm assuming that as COO, one of your main goals coming in is boosting AUV. So can you talk about where you are right now with AUV and what you're doing to increase that for your franchisees?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've got top line sales cures all ills, right? So it's thinking through those things and how do we drive those top line sales for our franchisees. So we're really focused on check, as we talked about, right? So with Presto AI, we're definitely seeing an increase in check. We're also really leaning into, and this, kind of is a partnership between marketing and operations, which is just critical to getting anything across the finish line. We're really leaning into quality and that being a differentiator for Taco John's. So the messaging and all of the innovation is around kind of screaming that from the mountaintops, but then we've got to execute that in store. And so it's really that whole package of, okay, so if we're going to message around quality and we believe that's the differentiator and that's going to drive the guest transaction for us, then we've got to have really awesome training tools and processes to make sure that what we're doing in store is backing that up. So it's really that whole package. And then we also, driving AUV, driving the top line, but we're also looking at the middle of the P&L, right? Do we really need that kind of cool, sexy new thing, although it's really awesome, kind of that old, clamshell or grill that we've been using for a million years that's a workhorse is doing the job. So it's finding the balance between where are we going to ask franchisees to invest because we believe the ROI is there, but then also what are we just going to leave alone because it's good enough and we can't prove out the ROI. And if we're balancing that, we get the buy-in from the franchisee and then hopefully the return for them in the long run.
Well, that's a really cool approach. So as you're looking at that, like you mentioned, kind of streamlining systems and equipment and technology. Are you looking at streamlining the menu as well, reducing the number of SKUs, keeping that pretty constant? Like, what are you thinking about from a menu
Always.
perspective?
it's a
Okay.
constant battle, right?
Okay.
We've got to keep it as simple as possible. And how do we continue to refine processes so that, it just is the least taxing it can be on the day-to-day operations. And then when we do that, we can lean into other things that are maybe a little bit more complex, right? Like, so quality is our messaging. So we're really leaning into, like, we need to be making fresh guac and fresh pico and grating our own cheese. And those things are a little bit more labor intense. So if we can ease the operational complexity on one side, then the ask is to lean into something that might be a little bit more operationally complex that will allow us then to go message, hey, we're better than the rest.
Great. So how many locations do you guys have, and what's next? Are you trying to grow the footprint still?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Isn't everybody?
Right.
Yeah. So we have about 335 locations. Most of those are in the traditional realm. So that's really what that Taco John's was built on, is, brick and mortar and owning land. And that really has gotten us to where we are today. I think some of the things that we've learned is that it's difficult to spread outside your footprint. We're in 13 states and primarily in the Midwest. And we want to grow responsibly. And so that means, kind of taking baby steps outside of our footprint instead of trying to fly across the country and open in Atlanta, for example, Marcus, right?
Gotcha.
Nobody knows us in Atlanta.
Gosh.
Yeah, I know. We're working on it, though. We're working on it.
What is
I
your
want some
next new
tacos.
state?
Yeah.
Gives Marcus the tacos. What's your
Yeah.
next new state that you're like coming next that you
Yeah,
haven't
so
entered yet?
I think really what we're leaning into, Cheryl, is the non-traditional footprint, right? It's such a competitive marketplace right now, and the competitive intrusion for us, kind of in these like little states and little towns across the Midwest, we're continuing to see pretty significant competitive intrusion there. So the things that we're looking at is, where can we show up that our competitors are not or can't, because they're kind of a larger company and just aren't looking in that area. So the brick and mortar is always going to be our foundation and our core, but things like airports and travel plazas and those types of places are where we feel like we can move into new markets with a larger organization that will allow us to open 5 or 6 stores, establish supply chain and distribution, and then be able to spread our footprint further out beyond those types of locations.
One of the things you mentioned that's interesting to me, you mentioned kind of smaller towns and areas, like convenience stores today. Like, you walk into them, they're restaurant operations for the most part. It's
100%.
pretty crazy at the amount of food that a lot of convenience stores have. So it's interesting because you're getting, restaurants are getting competition from, convenience stores, and
Everywhere.
they're getting better and better. It's pretty crazy.
100%. We had a conversation about that, with the ELT a couple of weeks ago. Where I live, Wawa is the big convenience store, and I am there often for lunch. And so, yes, that is definitely, we're all fighting for the same stomach share. So it's figuring out where the people are and then showing up in the best way possible. And I think one of the things that I've had to, moving from my previous role where, we were kind of all over the country, and to this role, I think my biggest adjustment has been the number of hours between stores in the Midwest. So it's been, but people have figured out where to go. So
Last question. What is your favorite thing on the menu?
So my favorite thing on the menu is a super soft taco or chicken soft taco, and always with a side of ole.
Of course.
Ole, I've got to get, next time I'm in the Midwest and see a Taco John's, I have got to wheel in there and check this Ole out.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Absolutely, me too.
Pretty good.
Well, thank you, Jackie. It has been great having you on. And Marcus, as always, thank you. And we will be right back for our next session, which is about the franchisee playbook. Welcome back to the show. We are going to tackle one of the most important balancing acts in franchising, finding the sweet spot between a brand's established playbook and the need for innovation. With me today is an industry veteran who understands this dynamic from every angle. Bill DiPaolo, a franchisee with Chicken Salad Chick and also the executive vice president for BGA, a growth acceleration group that helps emerging franchisors and entrepreneurs looking to franchise their business, scale smart, and balance growth with patience. He works with a lot of brands, Burrito Shack, the Lime Truck, for example. Thank you, Bill, for being here.
Very welcome. It's a lot of fun.
So you've seen this from both sides. When a franchisee signs on, they're buying into a proven system. They're given a playbook, but a lot of them have an entrepreneurial spirit. So how do you communicate the importance of adhering to that playbook, but also giving them the freedom to grow and thrive?
Yeah, and having seen this, because both having been on the franchisor side, so as chief operating officer for Ballard Brands, and we had PJ's Coffee of New Orleans. In my time there, we grew it from about 81 locations to a little over 200 locations at the time. And grew it, exponentially in Entrepreneur Magazine as well. The Franchise 500, we were not on the list in our first year. We weren't on the list in my second year, but through third, through fourth, through fifth, we ended up at our highest was 72. And that takes a lot of teamwork and coordination to make that happen. And it's not teamwork and coordination on the franchisor side. It's not teamwork and coordination on the franchisee side. It's all parties involved along with suppliers. Those are the things when you see your suppliers and your vendor partners as just that, partners. That's when it becomes really complete and it makes everybody coalesce around that mission. That's, I think, what brands don't really tend to see or to teach really well when talking about how do you get that vision to live? Because think about it this way, like if you're in restaurants, yeah, okay, you probably have your account executive that you talk with from PFG or Cisco or whomever, but your experience of the brand isn't that account rep. It's the guy or the girl delivering the groceries out of the back of that truck. And the way that happens and how they are filled or not filled with that brand's mission and vision and values is your real understanding of the brand's mission, vision, and values. And the same is within the four walls of the restaurant. I may be the person wanting to carry that banner and that standard, but I'm not the person they're going to see every day. And in fact, if most franchisees are running their business properly, that's not what they're seeing. They're seeing your line level employee. And if they're not filled with the understanding of what that mission is, if it means nothing to them, then it will mean nothing to the guests they serve. So it's filling them with the idea of that mission. And that takes a team. That's probably been my biggest unlock to helping us keep our system where it is right now. The Chicken Salad Chick that opened in Metairie, Louisiana. Well, you know what? I'll talk about the one in Slidell first. So Slidell was on a same-store sales decline when I bought it. It was an existing business for about 3+ years. We are currently on a 6% same-store sales increase. We just went through a week where we had a 10% increase. And that isn't because of me. I'm not even in the store every day. It's the team. The team is who's really built that relationship with the guest and made them, compelled them to come back, because it just feels like great teams make guests feel like they want to be there, and they sometimes don't even know why. They just feel good being there.
Well, right, but everybody says that, right? But how do you get that team? What are you doing? Give me like specific examples of what you did to get that team to buy in, to care, to have that passion.
So when most when most owners think about guest experience, they think about the external guest, the guest that pays the check and pays our bills, essentially. But what are we doing to think about the internal guest experience, the employees that we work with every day? It's four walls and cold food until the people show up. But the first people that show up are our internal guests. So what's their internal guest experience? Who's worrying about that? If I'm not worrying about that, then they're not going to translate it to the external guest. So I worry about that every day. I focus in on what is their experience of life every day. And great systems, great brand systems, and great trainings are the things that give them the foundation to be great. Catherine Munson, Love Catherine Munson. Actually, funny story. I actually went up to her the first time I met her at a franchise. It was the Unconference in Park City, Utah. And I go up to her and I literally said to her, I said, "Hey, look, Catherine, you don't know me at all, but I'm just telling you right now, I completely fangirl you. Like, I fangirl every time I see you." And she's like, "First of all, what? And second of all, what is a fangirl?" And I literally had to do that. Like, I do this. I'm like this when I see you because she's so smart and so driven. And one of the things that she said to me has stuck with me my whole life. Success is a function of the brilliant execution of the basic fundamentals. And I love the way she put it that it is a function. It's like a mathematic equation in many ways. It's not a guesswork, it's not by chance, it is a function of it. So if you do the basics brilliantly, you'll succeed. So I started adapting that a lot. And she's right. She's dead on right. I started looking at my organization and seeing the things that I was asking for out of my employees. And I was realizing I wasn't even giving them an excellent onboarding experience. Excellence in just getting them to apply, excellence in hiring them, excellence in interviewing them, and excellence in then getting their onboarding paperwork, their training process. All of those simple little sticks and bricks are the indicators of what the environment is to come.
So
And
how
that
did you fix it?
absolutely propels
How'd you
greatness.
improve how did you improve all of that? Through like an app,
So
through tech?
the technology and the systems were there to execute it. I improved it by following the system and not trying to be an innovator there. I simply wanted to follow the system and then let it live with joy in me. So, Chicken Salad Chick is spread joy, enrich lives, and serve others. Real simple mission statement. And I love it. I adapt that. It's what made me buy into the brand. And so, enrich lives and serve others is exactly what I was thinking of about how I onboard an employee. I want to enrich their lives by the environment they're going to come into. I want to serve them by giving them all the clearest roads and smoothest paths to get them into the building so that I allow them to walk down it without them tripping over things that I've left behind. When you take the obstacles out of their way, they don't trip. And when they don't trip, they're that much more certain about where they're stepping. When they're not looking down at what they're walking over and wondering what their foundation is, they have the time to look up here. And what I found was by innovating there and being excellent there and using the systems I was supplied, it made them excellent at making memories, not working mechanics. That's what was my unlock there. Follow the system, but follow it to excellence and examine each piece.
Well, you mentioned that franchisees obviously have to go above and beyond. So give me an example of a franchise-led innovation that you have put in but still protects the brand's core identity.
So, I want again spread joy, enrich lives, serve others with chicken salad chick. I really take it to heart, and the serve others aspect of it is tremendous for me. I don't expect anything from anyone I don't first serve. If I don't serve their needs, why should I expect them to serve mine? So, um, that idea of service is exactly what I put into again the brilliant execution of a basic fundamental training. When I was asking for my employees to do things, I started realizing my training systems weren't strong enough. So what did I do? I just came off of 4 weeks of retraining my entire management staff in Slidell, and this is a team that's succeeding right now. But I was asking them for things that I wanted them to deliver on with excellence. And I look back and I said, I didn't deliver excellence. I didn't give them everything they needed to follow through. I didn't provide the follow up. So I point the finger here first. And I spent 4 weeks with my district manager in building, training, developing, and following through and explaining all the systems again. And that's exactly how I innovated on what was already given to me. Another innovation. So yes, it's serve others, but it didn't tell me how to serve others. So this was one way that I did. I chose to start with my internal guest. We do something in my businesses called an employee loan program. I wanted the business to be able to be there for the employee in their time of need, just like I asked them to be there for me in my times of need. So one of the ways we do that is we will loan an employee if they are meet expectations on their current evaluation, if they've been employed with us for 6 months or longer, and they are an employee in good standing. I will lend them up to $1,000. There's no origination fee. There's no interest, there's no penalties. All it is I have lent you what you needed, and we take it back out of pay deductions at a time that we all agree on in order to reimburse the company. So I'm there for them for things like I had an employee who wanted the promotion I wanted to give her, couldn't get to work because they didn't have the transportation. I gave them the loan. They bought a motorcycle to be able to come to work to take the general manager position I was offering them. And then they got the raise to pay for the loan. I mean, it's all cyclical. I had somebody that their significant other lost their job and they needed to cover rent. I was able to be there for them for that because we had a structured program to deliver for them. That's how I feel serve others was the way that I was going to innovate. Not every franchisee. In fact, I don't know any franchisees doing that, but that was my innovation. Another one was so we do an employee day off program. I pay for 2 days a year for an employee to take the day off, and I pay them at their full rate. But what I do is this. My ask is that on the day that they take off, I am asking them, I'll pay you, but volunteer for a nonprofit that is in the community that we serve. So if we're in Slidell or if we're in Metairie, the employees in Metairie need to volunteer in Metairie. We did this with an employee that I have, Nikisha Hendry. Nikisha volunteered for there was an AA conference that she was part of and helping out because it's a personal thing to her that we supported her in that, paid her the full day that she worked, and gave her all the time off that she needed, and even provided some food to the event because we believed in what she was doing. And so that's my way of standing behind the employee. I didn't tell her what cause. I didn't care whether or not if she wanted to go to a homeless shelter, if she was going to a women's clinic, if she was going to a retirement community, whatever it was important to them, but they're serving others and living our brand. So the brand promise lives, but in an innovative way that I came up with.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I love that, supporting your employees. What do you say to someone who would say, well, what if you give them that $1,000 and then they quit and then you're out the money? Is it still worth it?
It is. I That's like saying, what if you train somebody really, really well and then they quit or they leave the next week? My belief, and again, I'm not trying to say anything negative to anyone else, but my belief in the positive to me is that I feel I should do that which I believe, regardless of whatever circumstances may come out of it. I should believe in it enough. I can change my ideas on how I may do something. But I believe that I cannot compromise on my ideals as to why I may do that something. So I'll always do and find ways to invest in employees. It may just take different forms, but I'm always going to find a way to do it. And I would the $1,000 loan program. I'd sooner lose it because I'm not going to lose, and I'm going to gain so much more than I'm going to lose when I'm helping the other employees that need me.
Right, and then your other employees see that you're there willing to help them. So I'm assuming that means that they're going to work that much harder for you. So it's a win-win.
They for sure do. And it's the same thing I said before. I don't expect anything from anyone I do not first serve. So my employees, when I come into the building, I don't come in like I'm big bad owner, like I'm coming here to check up on you. And I'm walking in, I'm hyping people up. We're high-fiving. If there's music on, I'm dancing. It's like we're here to provide a lift. We're here to serve them, to serve the guest. So I'm not coming in mud stomping and doing all that stupid corporate BS where it's, where you should have, cut like this. We have time for that. We have people for that. And the way that we do that is we do it through humility. We do it through grace. Every positive thought in our mind, positive word in our mouth, and positive action in our body is designed to make better that whom we're talking with. And I didn't say to or at, with. So when we speak with each other, we are in a conversation that is there to build and to grow. And that's been one of the ways in which I've been able to keep employees, because when I do that with my GMs, when I'm there with my regional managers, then my expectation is, you don't need to kiss my butt. You don't need to do anything for me. I want you to pay it forward by doing something for them. Turn that light on in someone else who's part of the team. Make someone else great. Don't make me great. That's not what I need. I need you to make someone else great so that we can grow.
A true test of a leader is giving someone else the credit and making them great. I love that. Well, I wish the rest, I mean, think about if the whole industry or the whole world had that mindset. I think we would be in a much better place, my friend.
Real, real. I think the idea and that surrounds the concept of humility is so needed because I think humility has been my biggest unlock in my personal and professional life. I really was a very self-centered and arrogant person, and I didn't really even mean to be. I just didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't have enough consciousness, and I've learned a lot, a
What was the
lot
wake
through a
up
lot.
call? What was the wake up call? Did your wife hit you
Oh,
over the head one day or?
my wife, anybody that knows her knows that she is clearly the class and brains end of our relationship. She is the president of our Chicken Salad Chick brand of our business. Again, we have a larger umbrella group, but she is the force really behind our CSC success. And she is a woman of great focus and determination. Nice as can be, but just not going to get told no. She is a driver, and
My kind of girl.
her insistence. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's why you guys get along so well. Her insistence on me and her belief in me and seeing through my faults to get to my successes and help me to get to my better place has been really inspiring for me to do that for others, and especially the teammates that we have in our buildings that serve our guests every day. I chose the business that we're in right now because I really wanted to serve our guests, but I couldn't have a servant's mindset if I didn't get humbled. And my wife really helped humble me. My faith humbled me, and it taught me to be just a better man. And I needed it.
Awesome. Well, Bill, thank you so much. This has been an incredible, insightful discussion. I can't wait to see you in person again. We appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Oh, look, I love it. I love the opportunity to talk about this business with anyone. And I truly mean that. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love being able to help other people, even if it's a shoulder to cry on, because sometimes I need it too. So reach out. Let's connect. I'd love to help you.
All right. Thanks, Bill. Well, everybody, we will be back really soon with executives from Tropical Smoothie and Juice It Up to explore delivery trends. Thanks.
Every day, restaurant operators face the same impossible question: how much should we prep today? Day after day, it's the same cycle: guessing, scrambling, and hoping you got it right. ClearCogs changes everything. Our AI analyzes your sales data, weather, events, and trends to tell you exactly what to prep, order, and staff before you need it. 53% reduction in bread waste. The projections are right on the money. We added 2% to our bottom line literally overnight. It's empowered us to scale confidently. Every morning, you get a daily prep sheet. That's it. No guesswork, no waste, just confident, data-driven decisions that transform your entire operation. Stop reacting to yesterday. Start commanding tomorrow. ClearCogs, making every day go right before it even starts. Learn more at clearcogs.com.
And we are back, and I'm excited to kick off our next to last session on one of the most critical topics in the quick service industry today, the last mile delivery. Delivery is no longer just an add-on, it's a central part of the customer experience and a major driver of revenue. And today we have two leaders who are at the forefront of this evolution. Please welcome Braden Turner, VP of Digital and Restaurant Technology at Tropical Smoothie Cafe, and Carlo Verdugo, VP of Operations and Business Development at Juice It Up. Braden, Carl, thanks for being here.
Hey, Shara, thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely, happy to be here.
All right, well, Braden, let's start with you. Tropical Smoothie Cafe has seen tremendous growth, obviously, and a big part of that has been on the technology. So how are you guys navigating that last mile, especially when it comes to balancing customer expectations for speed with the challenges of product quality? I imagine getting smoothies to arrive, how they're supposed to be isn't the easiest.
Yeah, it introduces some unique challenges. For us, we think that the guest experience is really important, something that we have to protect, and that becomes a little bit challenging when we are one step removed from that, in the sense that that guest for us is not at a physical location and engaging with one of our, we call them crew members. Those guests are interacting with a delivery driver from another brand, and so we think it's important that we understand that experience and try and work with our delivery partners to ensure that it is a great experience all around. When it comes to delivery, lucky for us that our products actually travel quite well. So our smoothies stay cold and they hold their integrity quite well over a period of time, enough to allow for delivery. And our food is very similar. So we've invested a lot over the past few years around the packaging. That's really important when we think about that delivery guest, making sure that the product gets there in the state that we want it to. And so we don't want to compromise that just because someone is getting those items delivered. When it comes to guest expectations, what I think is most important is around the communication, and that's throughout the entire experience. From the point of ordering, making sure that we're communicating expected delivery times. Throughout the order process, the actual making of the food, it being picked up, communicating those status updates to the guests is really important. So they're never guessing, when is their food going to arrive. We're constantly communicating throughout that. And I talk about the order anxiety. So the thought process that people go through after placing an order. Did they receive the order? Are they going to get it right? When am I going to receive it? They're the things that can build anxiety. But if you communicate frequently, you can kind of quash that and deliver that great experience.
What kind of tech are you using? What kind of tech are you using to deliver those messages? Is it apps or emails or everything?
Yeah, so we're very fortunate. We have a good partner when it comes to our own, what we call branded delivery, people that are ordering on our channels, but the fulfillment is through a partner. We're very fortunate that they have got good experiences built in to whether it's through the app and push notifications, whether it's SMS. They're able to pick up the status of the changes in that throughout that order journey, and they're able to send those updates on our behalf. I'd like that to be more of a branded experience coming from Tropical Smoothie. I think in the future that's what we will definitely look towards. But thankfully with those partners, we're able to do that now. So we're pretty fortunate there. And then I think one other comment around kind of the challenges here, we talked about like product quality. For us, because our product does travel quite well, it's less about product quality. The challenge for us is more about accuracy, making sure that we're actually making the order as the guest has submitted it, whether that's through customizations, customizing the order, or whether that's making sure that everything goes into the bag that's handed to that delivery driver. And then thirdly, it's making sure that the delivery driver actually hands everything, to that guest. And we're seeing now some of these delivery platforms combine orders. So I can order from Tropical Smoothie and go and pick up something from the drugstore on the way past, and they might be delivering multiple different orders. So there's an opportunity there for that driver to forget something or mess it up. So we work a lot with our delivery partners on ways to improve that, making sure they're armed with the right information. So yeah, that's an important area that we're really focusing on as well.
Okay. And Carlo, I know Juice It Up, you operate in a similar space where the product integrity is important. So how are you guys managing that final leg to make sure that the customer is getting what they want?
Yeah, thanks, Shara. Over the last couple of years, just with the trend of folks ordering digitally, whether it's from the website, through our app, through a third party, we're seeing more and more demand, right, for products to get delivered. And one of our first sort of aha moments was that just very similar to Braden, our products travel really well, right? Our traditional smoothies, raw juices travel extremely well. and can make it to the end point where the customer's like, great, high quality ingredients, and it's showing up in a way that I'm really going to enjoy it, remember it, and order it again. The one category that we were struggling with a little bit was our bowls. And so, this journey started a couple of years ago for us. And, so we kind of looked at, okay, how are we currently making them? How are they being delivered? How long are they holding up? Because we really wanted to make sure is with the, and I'm not sure, outside of the West Coast, but I'm almost certain it's probably the same, is that the demand for bowls is ever increasing. It's probably the single highest growing segment within the menu. And so, our consumers love us because, we actually started doing bowls, acai bowls, back in 2001. Right? A lot of people don't know that, but we've been doing bowls for 24 years. And so, customers came to us because it tasted great. They got it quick and they were very, very happy and they would return. Well, as things changed, right now it's okay. We got to have a little bit more variety, right? We need to hold on to our staple of high quality ingredients that show up, right? Maybe it's 20, 30 minutes later now in a condition where, it's not like a bowl of soup. It's a frozen product and you need to still be able to eat it with a spoon. And so we kind of re-engineered, we thought about, the different types of equipment and things that we do inside the store. So we were able to nail, and really, when it comes down to it, we were able to take, a bowl that before we would, put the ingredients in a blender, you would blend everything, and then you would, pour it into the bowl and put your toppings on it, right? The process took anywhere between 3 and then sometimes up to 5 minutes, right? If you had a stack of people that, customers that came in, it would take a little bit longer. Now we've kind of flipped that whole scene to where now a bowl takes less than a minute to make. We have not jeopardized on any product quality. In fact, I'd say now with the variety, the ability to customize a bowl to consumers, and the product integrity of holding up for a long period of time to be delivered to the consumer at their home has significantly increased. And I was actually just looking at some numbers, and so we've been converting all of our existing stores over, right, from the equipment and then the operations piece and through our delivery networks to make sure that everything is set. So we started that journey early in the year after testing it for quite some time. And what we're seeing is that, just in the bowl category alone, the folks that have been updated, right, we're seeing more than a 23% growth in bowl sales. Vice versa, right, the folks that are still doing it the old way, right, we're not losing customers, but that category is up 8%. So we know that, and I think a big chunk of that is going to be, right, the delivery to the consumer at their home or their office. So it's showing up really, really good. And then, of course, the other piece, again, is the speed. So, if you're coming in at breakfast and you got 4 people come in, they order 4 bowls, no longer does it take, 5 to sometimes even 10 minutes. If you're staffed at 2 people, it's a little bit difficult to do that. Well, now it's not an issue at all. In fact, it's probably one of the easier things to make within the store. So I think we've, some leaps and bounds on that to get to the end consumer.
You said it was from like 3 to 5 minutes to 1 minute. So what did you do to cut that time down?
Yeah, so we worked with our suppliers. We've been a partner with Sabazon now for 24 years because we started. In fact, we were one of the companies that brought acai to the U.S., one of the first back in 2001. And so we have really good partnerships with our suppliers. We use a couple others, but in working with them to say, okay, let's look at how you're shipping and what you're shipping to us today, and let's think through the different types of ways we can get the product. And bottom line is, we don't want to, we're not going to skip on quality, right? That's paramount with our brand. So how do we get that in a way where we could, produce and also have customizable and maybe some more variety of flavors and options? And so, really we put the challenge on them to help us with our feedback. And of course, that turned into something that was just as high, if not better quality, with more variety of something that no longer do we have to blend, right? We can go straight into a bowl that holds up a lot longer. And it did, it also required some special equipment. But definitely not a challenge. I think, at first, a business owner, a franchisee looks at it and says, okay, I got to spend X on a piece of equipment. But right, when we test it and we have proven results and we have franchisees and advocates that say, you know what, you'd be silly not to get this. You need to do it sooner rather than later because it's a game changer. And that's the way we're seeing it. of being a game changer. But again, we couldn't do that just by us coming up with, here's what we think it's going to be. We had to partner with our suppliers to make sure that we had, again, the same high, if not higher quality product in a way that now we're able to produce it a lot faster.
Awesome. All right, well, I want to go into technology and some of the AI you guys are using to make operations better. But before we get there, I want to do an overview. Braden, tell me about how many locations you have, where you're headquartered, just kind of give me an overview of where you guys are and where you're headed. And then Carlo, we will ask you the same thing in a second.
Yeah, cool. So we're 1,600 locations across the country. When I joined 5 years ago, we were about 850. So we're opening 150, 160 locations a year, which is fast-paced growth. We're very, I would say, Central and East Coast centric. We were born on a beach in Florida 26, 27 years ago, and have kind of moved up the coast and over those last few years.
You guys have any international locations yet? Or
no,
all inside? Okay.
All US, yep. And so, yeah, we want to continue to open up new cafes and spread the good news about Tropical Smoothie and get that across as far as we can go. Smoothies, food, and bowls. We're a little bit newer to the bowls game than Carlo and Juice It Up. A couple of years ago, we launched bowls, and it's been a category that's just exploding, not just for us, but across the industry. Really great food as well. Wraps and salads and flatbreads. A really good option for people.
Great. And Carlo?
Yeah, so we're currently at 98 stores, and we're primarily in the Western U.S. with really, I'd say, primarily California, right? Southern California is where we were sort of born 30 years ago, and we started to get into Central and Northern California, but still not the density like we have in Southern California. And we had a few stores. We have a few in Texas, New Mexico, Oregon. We'll have our first store in northern Nevada here, the early part of next year. But our focus right now is to continue to build density right in those western states, right? We're not quite going coast to coast, but we will, right? We have plans to do that. We want to build density in markets where we actually have a good footprint on the brand, introducing a brand. For example, in Texas, you can't just put one or two stores and folks are going to know who you are. You have to really look at it strategically and say, okay, we're going to go into, for example, let's say it's Houston. Okay, well, let's get, a 10 store footprint in a pretty good area within Houston to where customers know who you are. They become regulars and they become advocates, and you start to kind of spread from there. So it's really finding those strategic places to start and then building from there. So we're doing that. We've got a plan of doubling our footprint here in the next 4 years. So definitely not quite the numbers of Tropical Smoothie, but we plan to be at 200 stores here in the next 4 years.
Awesome. Well, I wanted you guys to explain that, because the reason why I asked you both to join this panel is because you're in the same space, but Carlo, you have a smaller, more regional brand. Braden, you have a more national brand, but you guys are facing the same issues with, like, when it comes to packaging and last mile, and also with technology. And I think a lot of our listeners are on the smaller side, while some others are on the bigger side. So I wanted to find out where you both are, because I think that's very important. So speaking of that, let's move into AI and technology and how you guys are using that in your delivery strategies. I think you'll have kind of different stories because you'll have different budgets. But Braden, let's start with you. Tell us how you're using AI. Are you into it right now? Are you just exploring it? Is it coming, or are you full blown into it?
Yeah, you might find that we're a little bit more closely aligned on where we're at with AI. Being a brand of our size doesn't always mean that we're necessarily at the forefront. But yeah, we're definitely looking at AI. We're very heavy vendor partners. So our tech stack is made up of a lot of different vendors, as you'd expect, whether it's through point of sale, whether it's loyalty platforms, marketing engines that sit on top of that. And they all have their AI capabilities that they're introducing. So we're going through a big effort of looking at, well, where should we play, and where should we rely on vendors to bring in that AI expertise? Where should we build it ourselves? Because we believe it's important for us to control that. So a lot of time spent there at the moment. We've got various different things that are going on, whether it's leveraging AI for product recommendations, upsell opportunities, looking at purchase data is a pretty common one. I think there's some really, in this space, delivery and order ahead in particular, there's some really fascinating areas where AI can help solve some issues or challenges. And one is around, again, the guest experience and also the operational side. So using AI to communicate expected delivery times. Today we have a very static delivery time. X number of minutes is what it takes to make a smoothie and make some food, and so we kind of build that into our expected delivery times. That doesn't take into account what's happening in the kitchen, how many orders, how large those orders are, the complexity of those orders, and so we're talking with vendors, and I think it'll be coming pretty soon. It's like taking those inputs, like time of day, kitchen capacity, even events in the community. If there's a sporting event happening on a particular day, you might get slammed. And so how do you take all of those inputs and provide, again, more accurate information back to the guest to keep them informed? So that's one area from AI that we're definitely looking at. Some of the platforms, delivery platforms and marketplaces do this really well. We don't, in our experience today, when you want to order delivery, you still have to select the cafe that you want to order from. Kind of irks me because why does a guest need to choose that? Exclude that step from the process, get them into the menu and the ordering process much quicker. You'll increase conversion rates, and let the AI tool determine what's the best cafe that we want to send this order to, again, based on what's happening in the kitchen queue across all different locations in a radius. Who's best suited to deliver this based on those various inputs? So better for our operations in our cafes, better experience for the guest. So that's something
I think you're onto something. I embarrassingly have put in my Taco Bell order at the wrong Taco Bell like 3 different times, and you think I would learn, but I keep going there and they're like, oh, it's at the other one, and then I have to drive across town. It's so annoying, and I'm like, the app should just know. It should just know where I am.
Yeah, it's a dilemma. We face that challenge, and you want to be very mindful about how much friction you put into the experience to try and solve that. Like, how many pop-ups can you put in to say, are you sure this is the location that you want to order from? And how can AI look at that and go, you frequently order from the wrong location or ask for refunds, and maybe we only prompt those people more often for that confirmation because perhaps they're more likely to get it wrong. Or so there's things that we can look at there. One other that I'll share, I saw just a few weeks back, using computer vision and AI, cameras sitting above an expo station, receipt is placed on the table, cameras pick up what order that's for. On the kitchen display screen, it brings up that order. As items are put into the bag, it checks off on the ticket, on the KDS, great, this item's gone into the bag, this item's gone into the bag. And then red flashing lights, you've missed the straw, you've missed the bag of chips, whatever it might be. And it won't be perfect, like this technology is going to get better and better, but at least for now, little prompts that can help crew members alert them and say, hey, it looks like you're missing this item. They can bypass that if they need to. But yeah, we're going to see so much in the space of how it's going to improve.
Carlo, what are you guys working on right now?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'd say we're also sort of at the beginning stages of looking at AI, right? I think the most important thing for the Juice It Up brand is we want to create memorable moments for customers, and we also want them to leave feeling like, wow, this was an outstanding product. I definitely want to come back, right? We want to create advocates at every stage within that sale process and or the awareness process. And so, taking AI and saying, okay, what are the things that we can do that this can help us with today? And really where we're starting right now is, with our rewards and loyalty program, right? We're able to, we understand, right, the purchase patterns, what people are ordering, when they're ordering it. And so we take that data and we use that to help us help them, right? Juice it up, remember the bowl that they just had and or had a week ago. And so, we're actually able to create customized, outreach to each consumer about exactly what they like about the brand and how they use it. So, for example, if they're ordering a bowl every other week, right, and maybe it's a acai bowl or if it's dragon fruit, we know, right? And so, okay, hey, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. That offer to that consumer might be a little bit differently. Like, hey, come on back, try out try this bowl with this new topping or something like that, right? Versus a consumer that's coming in and buying a raw juice, right? Their occasion is a little bit different, but now we're able to say, okay, I'm not going to ask them to buy a smoothie or a bowl because they come in and they buy a raw juice every other week and they almost do that consistently for like the whole course of the year. So, right, I'm customizing my loyalty rewards and or points to get them to come in for something that's really going to, hit what they're going to be purchasing at our stores. And again, yeah, I think every restaurant chain out there, in terms of product innovation, you're always introducing things new. So yeah, that's a great avenue for us to introduce them, to keep them excited about what may be new, updated, or something that they just can't miss out about the category of what they're purchasing, whether it's a smoothie, a raw juice, a bowl, or one of our heated toasted snack items. So we're trying to customize, their purchase intent with things that already get them to remember, like, oh, that's what I love about them. That's what I always order. Oh, I'm thinking about it now, so I want to go ahead and order. And an easy way for them to do that, right? So the way I speed things up is, okay, all they do is click a button, boom, they see everything that they've ordered in the past. They can easily place that order, right, and have it either delivered to them, they can come pick it up, so on and so forth. So I think that's the bigger area right now in terms of AI. I mean, we're using AI with other parts of the business like location, analytics and traffic and things like that. But I think from a customer standpoint, it really is, it's just getting it customized to where we don't become a noise, right? Because there's only so much a consumer is going to take when you're doing a push notification, like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to delete the app, right? And so you got to be careful for their time and you want to target them. So that's sort of what we're doing, and it's working.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the elephant in the room, the third party delivery. I know there's a love-hate relationship going on a lot of times. So what is your guys' advice when it comes to operators? I mean, I know that it used to be like operators were always trying to get the third party people to convert. You want to get them to order on your app. Then I've heard that some people are like kind of giving that up and they're just working with it. It is what it is. So what are you guys, what's your mentality with that, Braden?
I think I wouldn't invest too much time and dollars in trying to convert the people that are loyal to a DoorDash or to an Uber. I think the reality is that those people are always going to be customers of those apps and those platforms. And you could distract yourself by really trying to win those customers over. There are little things that you can do. Bag stuff is a kind of an obvious one and probably don't take too much effort or cost. But ultimately, I think they are guests of those platforms, and that's fine. Like what we have seen is that largely it's incremental. So a lot of people are new to the brand, and so we've just got to accept that. We'll look after the guests that come to us and have that on-brand, we believe, premium experience by using our app versus a marketplace. They're able to participate in our loyalty program and get the best value, but ultimately they're our guests, and DoorDash, Uber Eats, they're their guests, and so that's okay with us.
Okay, Carlo, what do you think?
Yeah, so similar, right? I think we're less now focused on trying to convert a third-party customer to our loyalty base. Because those folks are right, their consideration set is going into, for example, a DoorDash, and if you're an option there, they can order, right? So our approach is more so with our franchise partners of, this is a sales lever, right? that you can pull. And right, and when you do that, you should take off an always on approach, right? Don't focus on trying to convert people from one platform, to another. Let's just optimize the experience that the consumer has once that product is delivered to their doorstep or office or wherever it may be. And that's going to be in, the packaging, right? How they see the brand. But again, most importantly is, does that product show up, kind of like I was talking about earlier, does it show up still high quality, and, and they have it to where I want to order this again, and this is a platform that I can use for it. And so we look at it as, that extra sales channel that we do. And we have we have partnerships with every one of our third party delivery platforms, to where now we have it all integrated into the POS. There's no separate tablets, nothing like that. Everything comes in, fires, right? Operationally, we're able to see that and produce things and have it ready, right? And then of course that next step of having us place for either the DoorDash or the Uber Eats to come in and pick everything up. That's important too, right? We don't want to make that confusing. If we lose a minute or two on that, right, that's overall, you're adding that to that overall experience to the consumer. So making sure that you have the store set up right, so that when they do get there, they can get it and they can get the heck out and they can get it to the consumer. And then working with, of course, our franchise partners to, take that always on approach. And then, of course, I think the big one would be, we do use AI around really like helping our owners understand the impact of pricing. And so, because right, with the third party, yeah, there's commissions and things that are paid, and those, I mean, that's what you're paying the platform to offer that convenience to the consumer. And so what we do is really work with our owners to say, okay, where's the price elasticity of, okay, how much can you go to a point where, okay, I'm just not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to pay $20 for a smoothie, right? So, and I'm making that up. But needless to say, is that's probably the more important part, because when you have a franchise organization and you have, and I'm sure, we've got probably a little over 75 franchisees, and I know Tropical has a lot more than that. And so, franchisees are able to set their price. And so when they do that, you have to have a framework so that way they're not pricing themselves out of the market, because consumers are willing to pay more for that option. But there's a certain extent to where it can go away, right? And you're going to be pushing people away. So I think the bigger piece is making sure we're using our partners, but then coaching our franchise owners and giving them the tools that they need to really set it up correctly and set it up right, so it doesn't become a negative thing, if that makes sense.
All right, last question. I want to know from both of you, what percentage of your sales come from delivery, and what does success look like in that for you in the next year or two? Are you trying to, get that higher, or are you happy where you are? Braden?
Yeah, we're in the double digits, so I won't give away exact number, but double digits. What we've seen over the last period of time is it's flattening out. It's been pretty consistent year over year. Obviously, we saw a big spike a few years back, which was fantastic, and now we see that is leveling out, and I think we'll see it continue to maintain its level. So yeah, we're going to continue to support this channel. It's very important to us, to our franchisees. Just one little anecdote, that there was some of our franchisees treat the delivery driver as their customer. When they're coming in, they really look after them. They will give them free smoothies. They will be very welcoming, and they establish friendships with some of these drivers, these regulars. And so that can help extend the experience down to that person. So it is an important channel for us. We're going to continue to support it. At the same time, continue to drive value in our channels and make sure that we're looking after our direct guests as well.
Carlo?
Yeah, very similar, double digits. We see our delivery platforms growing, not just through third party, but other platforms that are out there, like Easy Cater and or first party. And we only see that continuing to increase. When I would say, okay, if I look back 2 years ago and I looked at the number of participating locations on third party was really a number that we weren't excited about. But now it's like that's the way we do business, right? So more and more consumers want, right? They want to be able to order on, whether it's their tablet, their phone, their computer, and they want to get it delivered to them, right, as quickly as possible in the best in the best quality form that it can be. And so what we pay attention to is exactly that, and working with our partners to make sure that we continue to deliver on that. Because yeah, if we don't, then those percentages will get smaller, but we're actually seeing them grow. We have some stores as high as 30%, right? And I'll just go like, to the top ones, 30% delivery, and they may be at a total of 70% digital, which you don't see that in a lot of restaurants these days. So we know what the upper limits can be, but we also see it growing every single day, right? And now I think we're in a perfect position where people they're thinking about how they're spending that $20 or $10, and with the pandemic and now kind of being a few years out of that, people are really thinking about what they put in their bodies. They want something better. They want something immunity boosting, and they want to be able to get it just as fast and as easy as anything else that they can order. I mean, heck, you can go on Amazon and get something delivered the same day, right? And so the technology is there. We just have to make sure we don't compromise product quality and, of course, that memorable moment that you're making for the consumer. So I've got to take all that into consideration.
Absolutely. Well, Braden and Carlo, thank you so much for your insights. We really appreciate it. And to all of our listeners, hang tight because we will be back with our closing keynote. Thanks. Welcome back to QSR Next, and we are ready for our final keynote of the day. I'm thrilled to introduce James Roussos, a franchise consultant for Chicken Salad Chick and author of several leadership books, including Pie, Theory, and Leadership. James is going to give us a quick overview of his 3 core principles for influential and effective leadership, which are people, integrity, and education. And then we'll have a short discussion with him. James, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Cece. So, after 20 years in corporate and franchise leadership, I've kind of come to realize that there are 3 core components that make most leaders worth following. With that said, I kind of over the years developed a leadership theory, and I call it the Pie Theory. It's composed of people, integrity, and education. And you were nice enough to invite me here, and I just kind of touch on the book itself and explain what makes a leader great or unforgettable. The first and most important principle of the theory is people. If you have the wrong people or the wrong people in the wrong positions, obviously it's game over, right? But before it even starts. So putting the wrong person in the wrong role doesn't just hurt the company. It hurts the person, the team, the culture, the environment, essentially the brand as a whole, no matter where you're at. So, I think we can all agree bad fits lead to bad results, right? I mean, it's just the nature of the world. And that in turn leads to people losing their jobs, which we absolutely do not want. I feel like the leader's job isn't to self-serve or boost an ego or have ulterior motives or personal agendas like some people do in fact have. It's more of a way to serve people, if you will. Lead, coach, educate, and obviously the education piece we'll get to here in a few minutes, but it's been proven in the workforce that when people feel valued, they thrive, they grow, they crave more, they want bigger things. So, over the years we've seen this. A few years ago, loud and clear we saw it. I think the media maybe labeled it the Great Resignation or something along those lines, where people were leaving their jobs not for the money, they were leaving because they didn't feel seen or heard or respected or appreciated. They just felt deflated. And that's when, everybody got involved, everybody chimed in, and the workforce, in fact, reminded us all what leaders should not ever forget and hold true to themselves. If you don't care about your people don't care about you, much less the vision that you have for whatever brand or concept you're in. So, quite simply put, if you want to be a leader worth following, we have to understand and put people first. We have to start there. Teams and people, they're the foundation of the business. They're the ones that bring your vision to life or death. Can very well kill your entire organization as a whole. But the people piece is huge, and that's followed by integrity. That's the second part of the book. Integrity, it's just one of those things. It's equally important as the other two. It creates the trust and the bond between different layers or capacities within inside the organization. It's not about grand gestures or throwing money around. It's about treating people the way you want to be treated, even when no one's watching. And we've all heard that saying, you know. But it's about being honest. You know, let's be honest. Let's have strong moral principles, and take ownership of the results that we have, or the results that we give. It's not flashy. You know, integrity is not flashy. We all know that. It's just something that's there. You got to be proud of it. It doesn't win awards. It's not this big trend on LinkedIn. You know, but without it, everything can fall apart. And we've seen that. Integrity is huge, especially when it comes to the workplace. We've seen people who, you know, hire different C-suite levels that even the middle levels, you know, they cut corners, they rise fast, but when it comes to them falling, man, they fall hard. They fall public. They fall very expensive. So, you know, as it relates to integrity, you know, be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. Own your mistakes. Be consistent. Your people don't expect perfection. Nobody in the industry, whatever the industry may be, expects perfection, right? They want honesty. I want to be able to ask you a question, get an honest answer, and you not tell somebody else an exact opposite answer. It's about the trust that's earned, and you know, it's leader led, which is, you know, that's going to be my third book, leader led. It's one decision at a time, and that second core principle of integrity, it's huge, especially when it's displayed in leadership, and it builds the trust, builds the strength, the bond, you know, and that kind of cascades down into the education. So, you know, you deal with people, you make sure you have integrity, and then you roll into the education piece. And I don't just mean degrees or certifications or, you know, anything like that. We're talking about lifelong, industry-wide learning. You know, something you can teach and pass along. For me, I mean, that's going to conferences, meeting great people like yourself, the CEOs in, you know, the Fast Casual Summit. That's what it is for me. That's the education piece for me. Asking mentors for feedback, staying curious about the business or the industry or different platforms that you want to support. The global information that can be helped, shared, distributed across the board to kind of help us navigate generational shifts, because we all know every generation has a different work style, right? So it's just about learning and self-educating. Most great leaders build cultures of growth. They build the curiosity, and the knowledge is encouraged. Mistakes are seen as part of the process. I was talking to somebody this morning, and I was like, look, all you want to do is explain to the kid, listen, it's not a big deal. We're not mad at you. We're not going to fire you. We just need to know why. That's it. We know the why, and then we can coach and educate and teach them what not to do or what to do in the same situation later on in life. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you want them to be challenged and supported and not hushed and deflated. You know, I'm a huge sports fan. I think you and I have talked about this before. I look at Phil Jackson. He built a championship team based on strategy, but not just strategy itself. He built the trust with the Dennis Rodmans, the Horace Grants, the Jordans, and the mindfulness and the adaptation to the different cultures that were on the team. I mean, he had meditation systems in place. That was totally cool. That's something I buy into that. I can't do it, but I buy into it. It's great, you know. Wayne Gretzky, he's another one. I'm a huge Gretzky fan. He led with his vision. He was in the league young, came in, did great, but then he taught the younger ones throughout the years, and you see him now, even cheering on the ones that are coming up on his records. It's awesome. I love to see that. The leadership in those guys, it's just something you don't always see. So when these guys go back to their organizations, they have to ask. At some point, somebody has to ask, their leaders inside their organization. You know, what are you learning? Like, these are the one-on-ones that you have with people. What are you learning? What are you teaching? And you know, the third most important thing is, are you growing? Cece, are you growing? That's kind of what it is, right? Because at the end of the day, education elevates everything and everyone. Doesn't matter what you're doing, what industry you're in. The education piece is huge. So, you know,
Yeah, I think I really liked what you said about the making mistakes. I think some leaders are very afraid to admit to making mistakes, but you know, I think that is smart. But there is a balance, though, right? Like you want to have trust with that leadership. So when you're talking to the leaders that you're coaching, how do you help them know when to say, yeah, I made that mistake, my bad, I'm sorry, and then let it trickle down? Or, you know, because like you want to instill confidence, you don't want them thinking that their leader is a mess, but you also want that honesty too.
yeah. So, you know, those those easy one-on-one conversations, that's where the identifiers come. You know, hey, I see what you did. Just e- explain to me what happened, why. Not mad, no big deal. You know, although inside you're like furious. You're like, oh my god, how did this kid do that? I don't understand. But you show that emotion, and that turns into something else. It's kind of like in the restaurant industry when you tell a kid, hey, I need you to hit 17%. That's it. They're going to hit 17%. Doesn't matter how they do it, right? So they're going to do it out of fear. And you don't want anybody, no matter what capacity you're at or what industry you're in, you don't want them to fear their decisions. You want them to own them and say, hey, Cece, I'm so sorry. This is what I did. But this is what we're going to do to fix it. Or, hey, can you help me understand a better way of doing this? That's all you want. You just want the communication and the trust and the bond where they're going to come to you. I'm sure you've had people in your past, you just like, God, man, I don't want to tell him or her that because she's gonna blow up, right? I mean, it's the fear factor you put in people as a leader or your title that I don't think a lot of people in the industry understand. If you walk in as a COO, you're going to get a different body language or a different person than if Doug, the GM, walks in. It's just nature of life, right? Titles carry a little bit of weight in our heads, but when you realize those people have a educational alignment with you, that's what makes it perfect. That's what makes it great. That's what makes the leaders great. I mean, I have one now. He is phenomenal. You know, I can go to him for anything, and he'll say, "Hey, Russo, these are your opportunities."
But what about the flip side? But what about the flip side of that? If I'm the CEO, is it show weakness if I go to the people below me and say, you know, I apologize, I messed this up. You know, what's your opinion on this? What can we do? Let's move forward. Does that show weakness or does that show confidence and
Absolutely
courage?
not. Absolutely not. That shows trust more than anything. That you know he or she trusts your input, your feedback. In no way, shape, or form does that. And it also shows that they're owning it, right? Man, you know what? What do you think at the ground level about this? Because I'm trying to understand these things. That's great. You know, I have a COO that does that across the board. It's fantastic. He gets input, he asks, and then he makes his decisions. That's the leadership that I look for in great leaders. Somebody who's going to help, support, educate, and know that they can come to you and say, "Hey, what do you think about this?"
Yep, I love that. I think that is a perfect way to end our chat today. Thank you, James. We really appreciate you being here. And where can we get the book? On Amazon or where?
Yes, you can get it on Amazon. And thank you so very much, Cece, for your time and efforts. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. I'm working on the third book now. Obviously, we talked about it, touched on it, leader led. Um, my editor and publisher, Holly Crawshaw, is fantastic. So You can find both of us on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help and or support or educate anybody who reaches out. I'm wide open.
So we can email you on LinkedIn and get some questions answered, right? Some free advice. That's brave.
Anything for you.
I love it. All right, well, thanks everybody. We appreciate your time today, and we'll be right back with some final notes on QSR Next. Thanks. And we are back. I just want to thank you, Marcus, for co-hosting today and sharing your expertise. We learned a lot from all of our experts. So what's your takeaways for the day?
Well, gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and there was lots of takeaways. The two biggest things that I think I'm mentioning is I try to tease themes out. One is, restaurants are still working really, really hard on any type of innovation around driving people into the restaurants, so driving traffic into the restaurants. So there's lots of talk about that, including, how do we create non-traditional locations that, and make our products accessible to folks that you're in high foot traffic areas that may be non-traditional versus a regular brick and mortar. So just trying to expand their footprints to where the people are so that they can get that traffic. The other thing that they're looking at is like, how do we focus on operational efficiencies? I mean, the pressures and the demands on the restaurant space are greater than they've ever been, whether it's food or labor. And what they're trying to do is figure out ways, whether that's leveraging AI, which we've all heard a lot about, we talked about a little earlier today, but not just leveraging AI, but then what does it actually do for me? Like, is it making me more efficient? Is it reducing my cost? Is it driving more traffic? So those are the two biggest themes I picked out of the sessions themselves. Is how do I get traffic into my restaurant? And once they're there, I want to, of course, give them a great guest experience. So there's some stuff around that. But then how do I operate as efficiently as I possibly can so that we can continue profitability and offer our guests a great value and great service and a great guest experience? So those are the two big themes that I picked out.
Yeah, I would agree. And I also think all of that combined with, we still have to have that human element. So it's interesting to see how brands are going to embrace AI, embrace tech, but still have that culture, still have that follow-worthy mentality. So you got to be good at everything these days.
You do.
Well, again, thanks, Marcus. We are so excited to have you today. And all to our listeners, if you would like to hear more info about all these topics and a lot more, you can join us in San Diego in March at the Restaurant Franchising and Innovation Summit. We would love to see you there. Until next time, have a great day.